Welcome back, everyone, and I hope you've all treated yourself a very good lunch. And to kickstart our afternoon, we have Winnie Mas, founder, partner, and principal architect of MVRDV, to share the empowering effect of active design, which shapes sustainable neighborhoods, and his revolutionary approach empowers spaces to breathe naturally, significantly reduce energy consumptions. So now please join me in welcoming the keynote, The Empowering Effect of Active Design, Shaping Sustainable Neighborhoods, presented by Ming Foundation. Please give a warm welcome to Winnie Mas.
Thank you. Thank you very much for... I will try to start the PowerPoint immediately in that way. I had another title to contribute to today's topic of game changing. It's a fantasy, a journey towards biotopia. Game changing takes time, and sometimes there are shocks in time, and how could that happen? When I this morning Googled, or on AI, my combination between my name and an airport design that we are doing in Prague airport, then it came out like this. Ooh. So something how to respond to AI, because I think it is more than only this combination. It's a combination of all data, I would say. So I'll try to bring you to a next step where this sequence takes you into that journey towards what I call biotopia. Let me introduce myself a little bit. Some of you might know my partners here in Rotterdam, but with more people that I present or represent, and with places also in the vicinity of Hong Kong. Our relationship is already long. But I also present the Y Factory, or represent the Y Factory, and a group of students and professors that work on future cities in Delft and in other countries, other universities in the world, to fantasize about that future. Because we can model that, we can say view them on specific places, and we can control, parameterize them, and maybe then AI will change a little bit with new data that come across. So these are some of the titles, and one of them I remind, because it was born here, Hong Kong Fantasies, a while ago, together with Hong Kong U, to think what so specific is about Hong Kong, what kind of directions it could take because of this SWOT analysis, and then invest in, say, in housing enormously, what came out of it, in the most, say, beautiful way, but also in food sector is one of the elements that came across. What's next after that? I go to the subject of today, is to look from then to now to then. An evolutionary city that I try to paint in a book that comes out. I mean, 20 years ago, this book I made about the capacity of the planet, about architecture and urbanism, what they can do. And now painting over it and trying to turn it into time, basically. What's next as a title? KM3 becomes KM4 in evolutionary circumstances. It is also connected to this hypothesis in Sapiens that you all might have read. And one phrase I would like to paraphrase is like, okay, there is a flux. Is it random or does it have direction? And according to his observation, it has. Of course, what direction is what we have to discuss, and that is what game changing partly is about. So I use that word, what's next, to go to a base of this directions is probably the urgencies that we see. If I make a section over the planet, just 10 kilometers high, 10 kilometers below, then I see a series of, say, events happening that interrelate and that somehow deal with the cycles that we have over our planet, over our crust, so to say, and over our skies. If I try to group them and thematize them, then these are a series of groups, both from, say, in climate, as in geology, as in air, as in resources, that in time develops. Every one is more or less urgent in that case, and that happens on different parts of the planet. If I try to speculate on that, then I can see potentially different globes emerging, where different roles in Southeast Asia and Africa, in the Netherlands, should and could take place. So what is next? If that's a base for our work that we should do, then we can create an agenda. If I ask you the question, and I can do that to politicians, I can do it to the developers, and ask you, do you want to be, say, responsible? Then most of the people don't say no. Say, actually, don't you want to be open? Most of you are open. And actually, there's a huge list of topics that come across that urgencies, that help us to steer our urbanism and our architecture. And yes, also, nobody is against loveliness, beauty, or even wonders. If we think that we can help, then there is a theme for us to do. So what's then next if I have that kind of introduction? Then I take some of them today to illustrate this trajectory. If I want to be more open, or you want to be more open, then our book porosity to create more porous environment looks to some of your beautiful towers. Well, you go in, you take a lift, go up, and that's it. You see 4 people on your journey, and in the meantime, you're in one of the densest places on the planet. How social can you become in this kind of environments? And where is the architect that can only make it the door and the crown of it? So what we try to do is to open the towers a little bit. Here you see some of the towers that students did. You can make it open in the very heart so that the tower becomes somehow pregnant of collectivity. Or you can cut it so that in between you can see your neighbors and have some balconies to share. Or you can turn it or twist it so that these pockets appear both for you, your neighbor, as for cooling of the environment, etc. Step by step. Every step costs something, is what this is about. And if I put that in order, I get a kind of new variant of Manhattan, where every street basically shows how these steps are celebrated, from a little bit open to more open, and from a little bit more village-like to less, to even polite stairs that bring you from the bottom to the top. I try to do it also here in Hong Kong, with Hong Kong U, in one of the later editions of BODW, to imagine that you could choose more in your towers. Towers of choices, how to celebrate that. You know your towers. This is, that's it. And they're all the same. And you're happy with so many square meters. I know there's a functional requirement in that. If I open them a little bit more, if I can add maybe pieces where you can make your own village, like this floor plan. I try to do that in repetitive and non-repetitive manners, then maybe I can give you some more, say, choices than you have at this very moment. Somehow we did this opening also in the Markthal in Rotterdam. Some of you have seen it, 2 housing bars, and you let them kiss together and they make a collective space, a public market when you can go around and where you can shop simply into food. If you look up, then this painting is overarching it, but there's maybe more important are these windows behind it, because in your house you love the market, but also somehow you control the developers or that are arranging that from your bedroom, from your place where you work, to say to your patios where your kids can play on top of the market and then celebrate this kind of combination. So we can do, in this case with lower middle class housing, also this kind of efforts to make an open and inviting environment. A couple of weeks ago we opened a pyramid in Tirana, and in this case the word opening is almost like political, because it used to be the mausoleum of the dictator. For about 30 years he dominated the country, and he hated women, and he made it almost impossible to steer it towards a kind of direction where everybody was somehow wealthy and healthy. And that he did with his statue, and at the moment 20 years ago when he died, immediately it was overtaken by a young, energetic population that ran up, slided down, that opened up the windows, decapitated the person in charge, and became a kind of symbol of like a new transformation of Albania, this tiny place of 2.5 million people that somehow want to become from the poorest country of Europe into now a partner in the European Union. So this took a role in that, because what should I then do? What should we do with this pyramid? And this is what it now is. What do? You discuss with the parliament of, do you want to erase it? No. We have to show that past. Do you want to glorify it, to restore it completely? No. Also, that was too much. So you end up with a kind of new, say, living with or overcoming, literally, this kind of, and that you do by giving access for everybody on the stairs, so that everybody can go and slide down at certain places and celebrate, basically, then this overcoming act. You can look down, and it is inhabited or squatted by schools that teach in ecology and in political science and in computer science, after school, like from 4 till 8 o'clock, Tumo is there, and that squats these spaces in between that is very open and that you can walk through, and turns it into this environment that is now a point where somehow you did this overcoming act, opening up this open air. You can walk through it. It's just a park, a structure in a park, not more, not less, is what it is. What is next in this agenda? Humanity, it remains, I think, an important part of society. And I think with our vertical village, and a study that we did also here, we try to advocate in that book how we can combine density with individualism, with kindness, with in-betweenness. Again, here an image on some of the cities in Southeast Asia and how you reproduce the same everywhere, as I said before. You did that in a very short notice. Here in Beijing, in 10 years' time, in this specific area, an urban village was transformed into something of the same. Density also in Seoul, how that went from left part to the right part, is also done in 10 years. And if I make maps, and I show in blue what are the villages that you have, where somehow that represent still that momentum of living together in a kind of close way. And then you see the bombardment of towers, of the same towers in the different areas in red. And then you see that certain cities, especially Beijing, is overtaken by that bombardment. So in Taipei, we try to make a village. This was a part of where we are operating. You can go there and select your house, type A, type B, but actually they're the same. People want to dress already, they want to advocate some kind of diversity. So how to do that? First tests with people, what do you want? And and then say somehow stack them on top of each other and replace that density with this choreography. This takes a time to do that, because to get this done, the finance was not available for that. So we are working with the Judd Foundation still on this initiative. I'll show you a report from the In-Between Act, because evolution goes over time. In our enterprise in New York, where we, on the north side of Harlem, for a Dominican community, created some density. What did they want? They wanted to kind of, so just the blocks like here on the left, but then stack them on top of each other. One is for social housing, another one is for a 2-star hotel, there is one for medical services, there's a third one for working spaces, breeding spaces as they call them, and then in blue the wedding zone of this community that are now over there next to George Washington Bridge. And they explicitly said to me, we don't want to have a white building, we don't want to have a brownie, we don't want to have a glass one, or it should be diverse, and the colors have been selected, have been made in the Netherlands in the end, and shipped to the west. And there you can walk now in between, you can go to the terraces, and this is the wedding zone, and imagine that there the couple is standing, and you see Amsterdam Avenue stretching out to the south towards mid and downtown. Then there's a tearjerker place that you can imagine, and that's what we have to do now as architects, to get our tears into the good direction. And the celebrations at the center are there. Limited budget, but what can you do to turn it into a community is what this building tries to express. But I'm happy that now for an art community with a developer, we can make in Shenzhen, which is close by, so next time you go there, this village with an auction center, with galleries, with houses for art students to meet and to hang out together. So it takes sometimes time, like 9 years almost, from Taipei to Shenzhen to get that explored. So what is next? I bring you, of course, in green. Most people love green or are not so against it. So what can we do? And the Green Deep book comes out in around Christmas, and it is our first say of a triptych or a trilogy on the relationship between man and nature, in a way. So we start with plants. What can they do? And this was a dream that we showed for Hong Kong, how that could be cutified over time, and that say the mountains would, if you love the mountains, why don't ask the mountains to come? So how to do that is basically studying every species that you have. Every biome has a series, but every species has a need for something: soil, water, maintenance, some costs, and produces something, from fruit, to food, to oxygen, to cooling and evaporation. What is then the consequence if we do that? We have to not only use pots, we have to use many articles. I'm reading about like an IKEA, which is completely made this kind of products, so that in any situation you could adopt plants for that. If I then take a piece of the planet, in this case, this 1 square kilometer next to Broadway and in New York, then I select my species on the facade, I select them on the balconies, I select them some indoor, some on the roofs, and some on the... Then this is what it gets. Somehow, in the end, Manhattan is also helping the planet a little bit. And if you then unravel all the components, and I take for the moment the biomass, how that is adding in the graph, and I can see what is the solar radiation at that moment compared, say, on doing nothing or with, then there is potentially a cooling factor, which is quite a lot to do. Fifth Avenue is then nice, I would say, in the end. Shopping is finally okay. Interiors are contributing on the edges, and that's what this fantasy is about. Could we do it also in Dubai? Big discussions how to celebrate that. What kind of species can do that? Do we need then more desalination? And is that still contributable? Can we do it also in decarbonized matter? And that is what this question, of course, raises. What does it do? If we do all the flat roofs in the world, let's start with that. So the easy job, you can say. If we do that, then already I have substantially more biomass. I have substantially more humidity, which is good for cloud forming. And I have 1 degree Celsius that I cool with that. That's more than I expected. It's so please look at that book for more detail. So where it would happen and over the planet, that's what this study shows. Somehow Seoul, our park in Seoul, is trying to work on that. This is the bridge that is there, and this is now the alphabet in Korean, of all the plants to check them out, how they grow, how much they need, and how much they give. It's done with the Botanical University in Seoul, and how does it now become, is to say, after 5 years of having this. So you see the growth of the sectors, here the needle sector, here the other part of the sector, here some of the close to the ginkgo area, how these are tested, and so you get a laboratory becomes a park, or a park becomes a lab, and tries to quantify basically our knowledge on this. And it starts now with that, but it leads now to next step. So that's the second part that I would like to show, is basically these bridges. We had one in the beginning, and now there are 6. One to Lotte, and one now coming also to this development on that area where in this case the developer also brings it up, and it becomes almost like a nursery, this direction. I think the Rotterdam depot is also helping a little bit on that. I mean, it has another story. It's an enclosed but now opened archive building for art. 90% is in our storages, and we made a building that somehow has a small footprint, because to keep the water and the park big, which the outside is mirroring, so to enlarge a little bit the perspective on the park as well as on Rotterdam. It doesn't want to look to one building, it wants to love them all. But it's also about, say, the storage inside as well as the forest on the top. I take you in for a moment. You go, here how the lorries come in, how the mirrors open, how you walk up over the stairs along the whole depot. Sometimes you visit them, open it in a democratic way, your choice of art, end up on the roof to celebrate or to eat, and then this forest is made and test. Soil like this, wind shields, pocket elements to create in 2 years' time this forest. And please go to check out if it makes sense. And it's part of a strategy in Rotterdam to greenify the roofs and to give it, therefore, more meaning. One thing was missing, the bees in the forest on depot, because bees cannot go 40 meters. So here the Valley is an attempt to do that. Valley is a building in the CBD of Amsterdam, which looks like any other CBD in the world. So what you get is a plinth and towers, and also the material somehow mirrorish would be preferred. So what we did, we scraped away the towers so that they could give both the terraces as well as viewing rooms, and then plant them with feet out of from the bottom to the top, and that create an object where you somehow scrape away substance and give a direction how it could go. If you then imagine and dream or fantasize about this vertical gardens, then you build them, and then in the first season you walk to it, and you can see the first, say, at Thames. It's a public park, so you can go up to the 5th, 6th floor. People are consuming, and there are terraces. There are ponds to keep the water. They're interconnected, and under the ponds, I can open it for the valleys below, for the program below. And then I go up again. I see the people giving food to the neighbors. Somehow on Saturdays, full of barbecues, so smoke surrounding these towers. And I think the advantage is that you don't have vertigo. You can also, because there's only 1 story or 2 stories that you can fall, and it helps enormously in this kind of social apparatus that is, and the bees can jump just in 2 steps to the top. This is an introduction to the next book of the triptych, Biodiversity, where we try to calculate the habitats. How much do I need from predators? How much do I need from the plants to feed? And then also again try to imagine products that are going over our city, so that in the end Lille becomes like a new place for deer to go. I go also on with the next book of Food City, where in this case, for instance, we try to imagine how we can use this green attack. Also here Manhattan, how much do New Yorkers eat? And a lot of burgers, as you can see, a part of it. If you then turn it into a tower, that's good, 40-kilometer high. But if you then say spread it over all the buildings, I would say this is what it's double Manhattan what you actually need if you would do that. I don't say that it should be done that. It has advantages, but just to know. In Tainan, in the market, we try to do it at the very moment. This is the design of a farm where all the products are shown, and where, say, below this farm, we can see all the mongers that sell it during every day. So it's built, the first phase now, so you can, it's rough, of course. The roof is happening. It's planted. The farmers are coming. So the coming year, we can invite you for this new, say, landscape in, say, hill in the city. It's not a tomb, as you would say. So what is next in that operation? We need to have water. So in our sea level collaborations, we make this catalog of how, say, certain environments can turn into more like, say, open areas where we can store and filter and buffer the water. I think in Tainan, in the spring that we made, this is Tainan, they say it's a beautiful city, I didn't know why. And then we are part of, say, trying to make more green in the city. So here, a department store that you get rid of, turn it into a ruin, and then you flood it with water, where you can, during the season, it cools the environment. And that is what I didn't expect, that people loved it somehow, because people said, yeah, but it's not Copenhagen, so people will not go into this pool. The undress, you cannot do it. So first the kids came, then the parents, and now the grandparents are there during day and night to celebrate this coolness, this spring. And yes, during dengue season, the water goes down, so you don't have breeding places for the dengue and the mosquitoes that are needed to do that. So this helps. I think also in Bordeaux, one case in France, here on this corner of the river called the Garonne, where there's a lot of history always in France. So what can you do? You can build in between all the traces, and every trace becomes a path, a small and narrow street. Then I densify it, and I trim it in such a way that I can have light and shadow, sun and shadow, depending on the season. Let it with solar cells, and I make this kind of cute albedo environment where this roof landscape makes the apparatus of this new ecology. Here, during, say, summer on the left side, where the trees filter and help for the shadow, 50% shadow on the street, and in the winter, where the light can go and reflect to the other facade. And that is what the forest that we make at the same moment in this configuration. And what helps, I think, is also the river. The river floods. In dark blue, you have to organize. So what we do in the cellars, like we would do in the Netherlands, to have these buffers, like in Istanbul, in the cisterns, where you can boat through. This is the sequence of cisterns that we have here, how they are under construction, 2.5 meters high, and then you make your narrow streets so that they make this and make them light, so that they reflect and then you can plant in the courtyards this kind of, say, forests again. You go further in these streets, you go around the corner, see another kind of oasis, and gradually with 140 architects for 3,500 units, we create, hopefully, these new icebergs in the southern part of France. I go further. What's next? And after water, I think energy deserves quite some effect. In Grand Paris, we suggested that now the law is there to cover the roofs with solar panels. In Phuket, we try to make these flowers on the ocean so that you can collect solar energy everywhere. And I'm very happy that on the coast of Taipei, you can see the Sun Rock now as one of the type power, which is completely covered with the solar, all the doors, all the facades. This is now under construction. And in Shanghai, we make these clouds now where say regular buildings are getting a pergola for this kind of elements to contribute to the future. Hangzhou just come yesterday about the energy park. This is what happened along the Grand Canal in China. A lot of industry. So the former oil industry here is dismantled, and we transform it into solar energy. So here the design of this solar park, which has the old elements covered with solar panels and green. In one comment, the new programs that come in on the different silos that are there, and then of course in the park spark. Also, we do with Pergola's a combination of it and filter it through. So what is next then? Decarbonization was a point. Carbonscape is a tool that we need in any operation. So we calculate that in the office, done by work in the universities. We can make wooden buildings now in Paris with 5-6 stories high. When do we do that here in China? And to turn it into this interiors. And even in Sydney, in the tower in the harbour tower, we make low-rise basically. So you make 5 stories, coupe-feu, 5 stories, again a filter, and then you can stack it on top of each other. So it is possible, is what I would like to stress. And in the meantime, we need to make products that are dismantleable. So this small building in Amsterdam, we analyzed how many products we need to deal with it. And you see the catalog of stuff that is part of our operation. If you can unscrew them, then we can always change them, is what this catalog is showing. And what is then next after this sequence? Then now the epilogue of this sequence of thinking is Biotopia. From now to then, we have to ask to everybody to engineer new things. These are fantastic breaks by acclaimed waste material. This is metamaterials, so that any material can get information and can be monitored in the skins of that material. Bioengineers, we have to ask to take us into the age of biology, and then maybe this algae can become better in this series of inventions over the coming time that transform a city like this into something like that. Or if I manipulate trees or growing lignification in different steps and delignification, then maybe from this, say Stefano Guerri time, it becomes much more a growing action. But the next step is, of course, that these inventions need to help each other. So if I see this diagram of how algae would improve, and I combine it with, say, phosphor plants in a way, then I start to think about a collaboration of this biomaterial, and that could lead to a blend, I would say. If we can imagine one material that does this full list, biological, gives light whenever you want, is changeable whenever you want, and it filtrates within this kind of sequences, then I can imagine that we have some stuff that adapts. When you are sleeping, you not need much, then it becomes a bit bigger. You start to walk with it. You need a space before and a space behind it to imagine that. You can sometimes it can grow quicker. You can get water because it undulates this kind of neo-rubber and can open it to where it wants. You can meet your kids in that way, and you can negotiate with your neighbor that kind of environment. You can do it by touching that material. You can do it by talking and saying to it. Then maybe we end at that moment in a biological, say, strata of flocking or of ingredients that lead probably maybe to here a film in Hangzhou of the last week where we imagine how that clusters together into this blend. And that is blend, I do hope. I don't have the material. It's the third component of this trilogy that comes in the end of the year, next year, that maybe then we can absorb it in certain places over the planet, so that can help to create clouds, that densities, and other kind of, say, climates. And maybe then the unnatural becomes natural, is what I would end with. And I find then a beautiful quote, again in Sapiens: biology enables, culture forbids. And from a biological perspective, nothing is unnatural. So direction is possible. And what direction is the question of this lecture. I do hope that I have, with this sequence, I have to give an introduction to the age of biology. I have to show with this sequence that I can imagine a trajectory towards biotopia. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Winnie. Thank you so much for such an inspiring presentation, and we look forward to thriving communities that work in harmony with the nature. So coming up next, we have a power talk exploring how the Dutch Design Foundation is leading the charge to fostering positive change through design. So please stay tuned. is bridging change, crafting connection, and reshaping the creative ecosystem. Our Power Talk speaker is Martijn Polan, MSc CEO of the Dutch Design Foundation, the organization behind Dutch Design Week. Organization focusing on experiment, innovation, and crossover and society impact. Particularly, attention goes to supporting young talents and future makers. So please join me in welcoming Martijn Polan. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to challenge you. It's virtually impossible to point out anything in here that is not designed. Now, I know we're a very smart crowd here. Normally there's someone saying, what about me? Well, at least I am today. I shaved, I did do my hair a little bit, I tried to dress up. You might find me a bad designer, that's okay. But if I would let everything go, I don't think my partner would want me back in a couple of months. So I would challenge everything around us is designed. The clothes we wear, the phone that we're so fond of, the transportation that we took to come to this lovely city, the beds we sleep in, the parks we stroll through at night, they're all designed, especially in the Netherlands. I don't know if you've ever been there, but everything is designed over there. We design on a nanoscale. This is a funny story. This is by Lucas Maase, and this, I think, fits about 200 or 300 times in your hair. And then he was going to design with ASML, the company that can do this sort of stuff, and he said, every designer has to design a chair at some times. So he designed a nano chair, just to prove that we can. We design on a metropolitan scale. I mean, look at this city. We design at a metropolitan scale, and we design at a genetical level. Don't be scared, this is not real yet. It's speculative. But you know, with CRISP technologies, CRISP-Cas, we can design on a genetic level, and we hardly ever talk about it. Because when we talk about design, it's often about luxury goods and stuff we buy. You know, you have the normal version and the design version, often with a little bit of a round, you know, chrome edge. That's the design version. And I want to challenge all of us to stop this and broaden up the scope. Because if we want to be game changers, we need to change the game. And the game isn't in luxury goods. The game is in everything we do, all around us, all the time. The way we sit here, the way we sleep, the way we eat, the way we live, the way we talk to each other, the way we build communities, it's everywhere. And therefore, it has transformative power. In the panel talk, I'll talk about the responsibilities that come with this, because I do grant designers a lot of power, but I want to talk about this transformative power. And I want to start with an example, but let me first introduce myself. My name is Martijn Polan. I am director of Dutch Design Foundation, and we organize Dutch Design Week, which is quite a big event in the Netherlands. We host about 2,500 designers and 100 locations in the city, with about 300,000 visitors, which is quite a lot for the small city of Eindhoven, which is actually, you would call it a village, but it's about 250,000 people that live there, so we have more visitors than people that live there. So we do take over as designers. And first a shout out to our friends of Hong Kong Design Center. They were part of Dutch Design Week this year with a very lovely exhibition. So I'm really happy that they came, and I'm happy that they asked us back. It's a very fruitful way to, you know, collaborate and start, you know, generating ideas and bouncing inspiration of one another. I think over 30 to 40,000 people visited their exhibition, so it was really powerful during Dutch Design Week. But I want to talk about this transformative power. And let me start with an example that we commissioned ourselves. When we have so many visitors in town and we want to organize talks and those sorts of things, we also wanted a clubhouse, and we wanted it in a public space. So you wouldn't need a ticket, it's in a public space, because we think everyone should be involved in design, because it's everywhere. And we asked Overtraders Way and Bureau Sla, well, in first instance, Overtraders Way, come up with a pavilion. And do it in a different way, because we want a circular pavilion. And that for me is the first kind of, game-changing element of design. They said, circular is not good enough for us. We want to do something different. We want a pavilion that leaves no trace. So 100% borrowed. And believe me, that's taking it one notch further. Because if you borrow everything, if you borrow something from someone, you want to give it back at least as good as it was. So if you want to build something with borrowed materials and you cannot screw, you cannot saw, you cannot drill, then you really need to reinvent yourself. I mean, we had to work with the Technological University of Eindhoven, with their department. How can we ever build something without all these, normal construction methods? But what they did as designers, they not only designed, the building, they also designed the process, they also designed the story, they also designed the way everyone could get involved. So the story was this. How about we start off with collecting all the materials from everyone, make a picture of all the materials, let's say an exploded view picture, then we assemble the building without damaging anything, any part of the borrowed materials, then we use it for 9 days, and about 400 people needed to get in, fit in at the same time. We use it for 9 days, and then we disassemble it, make the same picture again, the exploded view picture, and everyone can come pick up their materials. And this is what we did. And this is, here's the exploded view picture. You see all the materials. And the fun part of this was everyone wanted to get involved. They said, look, this is something different, something completely different than we're used to. So for example, the concrete pillars that you normally drill into the ground, this was based upon those pillars. But we wouldn't damage them. We would just put them up straight and then build the building around them. And they would be pre-ordered, so you had to wait 2 years in advance. You had to order them 2 years in advance. But this company that made them said, look, I find this project so amazing, so they also designed the storytelling. I'm going to bring my pillars to you, you can use them, and I'll come pick them back up again and then give them to my customer, because they will be in the same condition. We had a construction company that said, look, we want to be involved. We want to build this because we think this kind of thinking is part of our future. And we won't charge you as much as we normally do. We'll charge you half the rates for my people because I want them to get involved in this sort of thinking. Everyone got involved. And this is what they said it would look like. And you know how architects can dazzle us with beautiful pictures. And this is what it was going to look like from the inside. And this is what it actually was. So a beautiful building. They've won many architectural prizes, not only for the building and the beauty of it, but especially for the process. And this is what it looked like from the inside. So for example, these benches are church benches that were borrowed from the church and brought back. And they loved the idea that so many people had access to this building and were sitting on their benches. And then they make this picture, and everyone came to collect their stuff. So no trace left. That to me is circular, beyond circular. So if we want to think about the future, and if we want to broaden the scope of design, we really need to step away from, we're about luxury goods or luxury projects. No, we're about everything, everywhere. I think this is really a good example. Here they are, lovely team. Now, to broaden the scope a little bit, I want to introduce a model. And it's not a scientific model, so don't hang me up on that. It's just a conversation model. It's not been researched. It's just a conversation model for us. On the horizontal axis, I want to put two different things. Are you designing for a specific individual, her, his needs, his beliefs, his emotions, or more for a social or systems approach? And on the vertical axis, from highly conceptual to really applied. And then you get 4 quadrants. And I know there's a lot to say about this, and they're not mutually exclusive, I know, but just as a conversation piece. If we go to the up left corner, we say you're designing things for specific people and it's not really applied, it's not directly for a certain use. And very often it comes really close to art. So art and design can become really close. On the up right corner, it's speculators. We just heard Winnie, for example, with the green dip. He's thinking about the future, let's say 25, 50 years ahead. And we think it's really important because envisioning that gives us imagination, visions, narrative to talk about this future. Do we want this? Do we not want this? So we need speculators. But it's a different kind of design. A designer can do all sorts of activities in all these quadrants, by the way. But this is speculating is something different. On the bottom right, you see people that are thinking about what's the future of mobility, what's the future of healthcare, what's the future of living, what's the future of social systems, and very often use technology to come up with ideas what will happen in the next 2 to 3, 4, or 5 years, applying what is possible in technology at this moment. And on the bottom left, we have the creators, people that make the products, the services that we use at this moment. And it's very important, powerful part of this picture because that is where, the market mechanisms, this is where the scale is at. So they're all important, and I want to broaden the discussion. Let's talk about design in all the aspects of this model. So let me present Xin-Fei Chen. She came from the East from China actually to the Netherlands to study. And she had a clash. I'm gonna try to explain the clash that she experienced in the educational model. And maybe I'm generalizing, maybe we can have a discussion about this, but she said, where I come from, the teacher is the one who grants you his or her wisdom. He knows, and you listen, and you learn, and you try to grab some of that wisdom, and you just hear about what is going on in, the realm that you want to study. And I'm not normative. I don't think one is better than the other, so that's not what this is about. But in the Netherlands, teachers are really much more egalitarian, and they confront you, and they want you to have an opinion, maybe even opposing the teacher. So it's a different model. And she was struggling with this a lot. And then at a certain point in time, she was asked in front of the group, and the teacher wouldn't let her get away. That was his idea, with not responding in the way he wanted. So he asked her a question, and she repeated what he had taught her. And he said, now I want you to formulate your own opinion. And he kept on pressing her to formulate her own opinion opposing to the teacher. And she just shut down. She couldn't handle the difference, and she started crying, which was really humiliating for her. In public, she was crying because she couldn't stand up to the teacher, because this was not culturally embedded in the way she grew up. And she used this personal experience to create something beautiful, a tear gun. And this is a piece of jewelry, but I think it's actually a social experience. But it was really private. It was her own experience. So what she did was she created a device that would capture her tears, then freeze them, and use them as bullets that she could shoot back at the teacher. I loved it. It's a beautiful piece of machinery, let's agree on that. So, but it implied so much more. It was just a collision of educational systems through her experience. And at the graduation show, she actually shot her tear gun at the teacher. And no one was hurt in this story. Yeah, she was hurt at the start. But she could give, meaning to in a sense. So I think these sorts of design are really important. This is where people, this is where you get emotionally attached or emotionally involved in a design. So it's really important. Up right, we just heard Winnie Maas, a great speculator. What will the future look like? Giving us ideas. So let's say 25, 50, 75, or 100 years from now. I want to give you an example from the Netherlands. Jan Rotmans, together with TU Delft, with Wageningen, and a lot of others. They had a vision, or at least they wanted to discuss what about our fight against water? You know, the Netherlands is, a large part of it is below sea level, and we have a lot of dikes, and we have a lot of, interaction with water. And somehow we kind of never talk about the future. Well, we talk about the future, but, we just sort of trust that our engineers will be able to, keep the water at bay, build higher dikes. But if the sea level is indeed rising 1, 2, 3 meters, and at the same time our country is declining, that at a certain point we might not be able to win that fight. So what if you would turn this picture around? And I'm not saying this is the right picture, but we should have the discussion. What if you would let the water in? Maybe it would look like a delta, maybe a little bit more like Hong Kong with a lot of water, and maybe we would have to find a completely new way to live together with the water. But this would have huge implications. We never have this discussion without the speculators. People that give images, narrative to these sorts of thoughts. What would happen if we would go there? Some people would have to relocate. Others, we would have to have a new sort of building. We would, instead of fight with the water, we would really let water in. It's a completely different story. It's a completely different discussion. But we need to have it, and we need to have it now, or we'll be too late if we want to take this route. Because you have to start doing different things now in policy, in business, in design, in the way we live, in the way we think about our living environment. So this is about speculating. Now, if we go to the bottom part, these are, well, like I said, people that very often use technology, think about what's going on in the world right now, how can I apply this technology, and how can I make a change so it becomes more applied. And I want to root here for Amber J. Sloten, and the Fabricant, the company she started together with a partner. And she was graduating from fashion school. And she said, but I don't want to be part of the fashion system, not in a traditional way. I don't want to be part of, the high couture and the fast fashion and all sorts of material issues, pollution issues, transportation issues, waste issues. I don't want that. So I want to graduate with digital fashion. And that's what she did. And people thought, this is a speculator. Well, a lot of fun, crazy ideas. But she graduated with digital fashion. And she has really refined digital fashion. And everyone kind of, thought this is a really funny exercise until she sold her first dress for $10,000 to an influencer. An influencer that said, if I buy a dress and go to a gala party, maybe 100 people will see my dress and some in the pictures in the magazine, but that's it. If I have a beautiful dress with my online, in my online existence, can be Instagram, can be TikTok, can be WeChat, can be, I don't know where, can be in the multiverse, many more people will see it. So why isn't the value valued the way it is? Well, she built a company around this, and the beautiful part of it, not just the company, but she really thought through how will the fashion system then change. So for example, if you look at labor in fashion, we know it's not evenly distributed. Over here, the dress is sold as an NFT. So everything is locked on the blockchain, but also everyone's contribution is locked on the blockchain. So some people are really good at the way the fabric flows, some people are really good at, the design of the colors, some people are really good at, I don't know, all the parts of making this digital fashions are logged onto the blockchain, and the royalty system is also logged onto the blockchain. So in the future, when this NFT gets resold, it's already determined who will get what, and it's an even share for everyone who contributed, making, so also a change in the contribution system of, the labor system of fashion. And then the last one, a product. He also started speculating, and then he also went to the bottom right quadrant of, I'm trying to improve something, and now he has a company and he's selling products. It's Bob Hendricks. And Winnie was just talking about mycelium and the lovely quantities of mycelium. Mycelium is I don't know, it's the thread under, what's the right word? Roots? Mushrooms, thank you. Mushrooms. So this intricate network of mushrooms that are below the ground. And you can use them as a bio-based building material. We'll get many more examples of that later on. But he said there's something else. We are, as we already have agreed, a wasteful species, right? We get born, we get thrown into this world. The first thing we do is slap diapers on us, and we pollute diapers, and that's highly, polluting diapers. And then we go on and we buy cars and we build houses, and all our life we are polluting. And then at the end of our life cycle, we go into the ground, and what do? Pollute the ground. We go into very often cheap wooden boxes, at least in the West. Cheap wooden boxes into the ground. We have a lot of collected heavy materials, metals in our body, when they go into the ground, and we pollute the ground yet again. So full circle, we are polluting. And he said we can do this differently. I build a living coffin of mycelium. This mycelium has the capacity to slowly dissolve us and break down all the poison and heavy metals that are in our body. And instead of, decomposing our body, it's compost. Actually, we're feeding the ground through this mycelium, and we disappear, go back once again into nature. So he now has a company. At first, actually, people laughed a little bit at this. Yeah, it's funny. But now, he's actually... he's built a company, and the big, funeral company in this world that, in the Netherlands, that is doing all these, burials of people, are now offering, you can be buried in one of these living coffins, and you can return to the earth as we came into it. All right, I need to stop. So many more examples, but this is what it is. What I wanted to say in the final part is, never let yourself be put into one box. We are everywhere, and that means we have transformative power, and that also means we really have to stop the bullshit and really start acting now. Roll up our sleeves higher than ever and start to work at this livable future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Martin. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sure that some of us would like to talk to Martin more. And if you do so, maybe you can go to Room NL, and maybe you'll see him and you can hear more from his insight and foresight. So our next session will be a power talk on the potential of Thai design worldwide and their creative journey and cultural influences. So see you in a bit. Welcome back, everyone. And this Power Talk session, we will be joined by speaker ML Larn Kathathongya, Assistant Director, General Department of International Trade Promotion, Ministry of Commerce of Thailand. And there will also be a fireside chat with Alex Jarvavarannont, Vice President of Thai Bright Group Company Limited, CP Group. And this session will be moderated by Tiffany Lau, founder and principal of APART Companies. So please enjoy.
Great. Welcome to our session. I hope everyone's having an inspired morning. We're going to kick off this session with Larn's presentation.
Yeah.
Kun Larn, I think you're ready to take it away, right?
Great. Okay. Thanks for the introductions, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, so happy to be here today. Last week I was a little bit under the weather, but I'm here now. So excuse me if I have a little cough, but I try to make it as smooth as possible. Anyway. I'm from the Department of International Trade Promotion, which is a government organization in Thailand at the Ministry of Commerce. And you're probably wondering what in the world the Department of International Trade Promotion has to do with crafting a modern Thai identity, particularly in design. To understand that, you have to go back a few years, maybe 30 years, around the early 1990s, which coincidentally was the beginning of my journey as a civil servant in Thailand. And having graduated from overseas with a degree in industrial design, I decided to return to Thailand and, eyes wide open, optimistic, trying to find a job in product design. But reality, kind of hit me pretty hard, where I couldn't find any employment in the field that I was specialized in. So that was, I think, the norm in Thailand, is particularly with people with design backgrounds. They find themselves working in related industries, like in advertising, in graphic design, packaging design. In the beginning, I found it quite difficult to adapt, but in the end, I started to realize that maybe my true calling was to try and promote and support the design industry in Thailand. So I eventually decided to join the civil service at the Ministry of Commerce, and it so happens that at that time they were looking at setting up an agency to deal with value creation. And Thailand in those days, actually right now, is quite manufacturing intensive. Martin earlier said design is everywhere. Maybe if you had to come to Thailand 30 years ago, maybe not so much. But at that time, we were very powerful in terms of being a manufacturing hub. But obviously, with the emergence of competitors within the region, we started to feel that pressure, and the competitors were chipping away at our piece of the pie, so to speak. So the Thai government had to find a way or strategies to be able to maintain or even increase competitiveness on the global scale. And in Thailand at that time, the main foreign earner was the big multinationals, the direct foreign investment that invested in manufacturing in Thailand. Over 59% of enterprises were of GDP was from these big companies. And but what we found was that the majority of enterprises, 99% of enterprises, were MSMEs or micro small enterprises, and they only accounted for 34% of GDP. The total number of MSMEs was like over 3 million, right? And they employed over 12 million people. So I think that logically that was our main target. So we started to go about trying to build awareness and recognition of design as a value creation, as a strategic tool in raising the level of competitiveness into the global market. So that was our starting point, and it wasn't that easy. It wasn't that easy. Oops, sorry. Okay. The understanding of design as we know it was quite limited. I mean, Alex would agree with me that a lot of Thais in that period we were bombarded. We were a lot of influence from the West. We had overseas brands, and so the demand for local designs was quite low. But what we found that, in fact, in rural Thailand, handicraft was still, culturally based handicraft was still quite prominent. So, in fact, that was the starting point of the journey and the relationship between our department and the Thai designs and creative brands, So initially, like I said before, we tried to build awareness and recognition of design. But after a few years, we found that there were Thai designers coming out of the educational institutions and going overseas and coming back and trying to find opportunities in the domestic market, in the industry. And that was the problem that I had. So we initiated an initiative, a program whereby we would bring in and develop these Thai designers and creatives so that we're able to compete on the global scale. And we called it the Talent Thai Designers Room, and later on we called it the Creative Studios Initiative, whereby it was a two-year program whereby we would give these new young generation of designers the opportunity, right, to network with entrepreneurs, network with manufacturers, network between the design industries themselves. So that was our flagship initiative, and we organize this program to this very day, and we have the number of designers and creatives that have gone through this initiative has exceeded 500. So little by little, we're instilling a certain level of design awareness and creativity back into the industry, through these designers. And what we found was that working for many years with these design and creatives was that they have distinctive characteristics. They have distinctive identity. And this identity is intrinsic in their relationship between culture, tradition, and religion. Their religious roots. So it's a different perspective to maybe Western cultures, whereby it's probably led by innovation or technology, but for Thai creatives, it's back to their roots of culture, tradition, and religion. So I just want to give you some examples with the short time that I have of some of the people that have gone through this initiative. In fashion design, we have a designer called Saran Yukongdi. His brand is called Saran. Mm-hmm. And his collections are quite distinctive. When you look at in face value here, you think, okay, he's a designer, and we've given him that opportunity to create his brand, to develop his network overseas. We've supported him in going into the different design fashion weeks. We supported him into the New York Fashion Week, Milan Fashion Week, and has been quite successful in that respect. But what we see is that is his distinct trait, in that his artwork is, his jewelry in particular, is very sustainable. They're not made from gems or jewelry or diamonds, but they're made from recycled paper. And the recycled paper that he uses here has been used a proprietary innovation where it's made to be more durable and waterproof. But his message is that jewelry is not only to be worn and displayed visually, but you can also use aroma as well on the jewelry, so that it's just the whole package of, the visual effect from outside and the emotional effect that you have wearing the jewelry itself. So just some of the examples. This is earrings made of paper, recycled paper, and it's called dog rak, love flower in Thai. And it's obviously used in ceremonial events, religious events as well. So it's quite distinct. Some of the examples here of his. Also, he did a bit with Lisa as well, just to plug Lisa in there as well. Another example is Goragot. I don't know if you've heard of Goragot. Goragot Aromdi is a Thai designer. He is from Phetchaburi, which is a province outside of Bangkok. And after his graduation, his background is quite unique in that he was brought up in a fishing village in rural Thailand with very little opportunity to see the world. So what he learned was traditional methods of making fishing nets, traditional methods of kite making, which his father taught him. Traditional Thai kites we call wao jula. The way they make the kites with the unique binding techniques. Anyway, after he finished his university degree in arts, he used this knowledge that he learned to create designs not only in Thailand, but is well known overseas now. These are some of the inspirations that he got. It's not so technological, not so. It's very traditional. This is like basket weaving, kite making, these sort of techniques. And these are some of his employees. He uses his grandmother and grandfather as workers. Some of his tools, very high-end tools. This is the factory manager that he has. But what comes out with Gorogot's work is exquisite designs made of bamboo and using traditional methods. And you can find this. This was Alila 5-star hotel in Cham. Uses his designs. Right? There's a hotel in Phuket that uses his design, and his designs are everywhere. Anyway, he expanded his expertise into architecture and built a restaurant in Amphawa called Buffalo Restaurant, I think it's called. Made of bamboo, right? And this is a cafe and restaurant. He also, obviously, like I said, religion is very strong. He's made a meditation center out of bamboo. Anyway, our first real push into the Western market to teach our methods or our identity is slow hand design at the Milan Design Week. And our first attempt was to show that Thai design is very much intrinsically related to our culture, our heritage, our religion. So as you see from the symbolism here, it says slow hand design, but it's in a Buddha image. That was the key visual that we had. And this was our first attempt, show that the slow hand is as opposed to the mass production, using our hands, our handicraft to express our intrinsic, our identity. Some of the products here. This is the second year we had. The message here was the use of our traditional interweaving, the mixing and matching of natural materials to make translate into modern day contemporary designs. Anyway, COP26. COP26 turned everything around. Thailand, when we participated in COP26, we made some commitments to carbon neutrality in 2050 and net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2065. How do we do that? And obviously we used our strong point, which is the design, and our designers embraced sustainability because of our background in using natural materials and mixing and matching of renewable materials. So what we did was we created another initiative called 50 BCG Heroes, or Biocircular Green Heroes. And some examples of the BCG Heroes that we have here. This is another one that we had. It's called Dewa Dewi project, where we help to encourage startups to come up with newer materials from waste. Thailand is an agriculture-based industry, so there's a lot of waste in agriculture and in industry. So just one example is Thai Nam Chol, that have developed fibers made of pineapple peels. And pineapple fiber yarns has 2 to 3 times the tenacity of cotton. So the applications they have it's far more than fashion or apparel, but into other areas of industry as well. And here's just some examples that they've been looking at to make more diverse product ranges rather than just apparel. Another very interesting startup is called Upside, where they developed proprietary processes using waste from pineapples and durian peels. So, and now the high-end brands are using these kind of what we call vegan leather to make their products. So I think we're on the right track. There's another example of a circular design. It's called Bin. Bin Metal Art is she's a third-generation designer who a third-generation manufacturer of curtain railings. Right? Curtain railings, they're very wasteful. They come up with the positives and the negatives, and they use the positives. The negatives they throw out as waste material. And what has she done with her background is made her father's, her grandfather's production process totally circular by using the negatives, the waste, making into designed products. She's also transformed and upskilled her labor force. Normally you would call them welders, right? Now they're called artisans, and they contribute to the creation of these products as well. So from waste that they have, or the negatives that they had from the curtain railings, and they come in to produce products that are high-end decorative products on the market. So another example is Quali. I'm sure you've heard of Quali because they have a big they have an outlet here in Hong Kong. They're also a second generation manufacturer of plastic products. They have a lot of waste as well. But now what they do is they accept waste from outside, and they make other products from recycled plastics. One example is river rocks. You don't expect river rocks, but river rocks are very, very useful in that they're lightweight, very durable, and they because they're in the large lumps, they don't contribute to microplastics. So they're used here. They also collect a lot of, with the Environmental Justice Foundation, collect nets from all around the southern Thailand and make it into products that they sell on the market. So all recycled products. Anyway, to summarize, what we do is basically we don't take the lead. We are a supportive agency, and we give our creatives, our designers, the opportunities to excel. Thailand has many soft powers. We excel in a lot of things. We have a lot of advantages. We have a lot of assets. A lot of you have been to Thailand. We have many talented people, you know. I don't know if you've heard about Thailand soft powers. We are the land of smiles,
yeah.
Right? We have sun-drenched beaches. We have temples and traffic. We have monks and Muay Thai. We have bars, spas, and we have happy endings. The good, the bad, and the ugly. So, but I believe that design is also a soft power, you know. And I think that it's not always technical innovation or modern technology that is the important thing, but the more to do with the handmade techniques and heart-made designs. You know, the speaker in the morning said the human-centric. I think it's very much to do with Thai design is much to do with the human touch. Thank you very much. Open cup.
Thank you, Kun Larn. I think we'd all agree that what you showed us was very evocative, very emotive, innovative, and definitely deeply human. So I do want to pivot a little bit to kick off our chat and actually get Alex to weigh in a bit. You said something early on in your presentation, Lauren, about value creation. And Alex and I had a quick chat earlier about this as well. And Alex, given that you are a trained architect, you're now working within the vast and diverse industries that comprise CP Group. So I'd love to know how have you adapted and also utilized design and design thinking within the corporate environment?
Well, in terms of how I adapted, it's really like in anything, you have to understand what your counterpart needs, right? Your client. So if any of you are designers who actually sat across from a design presentation, I'm the guy sitting across from you who actually help bridge the gap between the designer and also our top management and so forth. So a lot of times, people think that large corporates is all about the bottom line, but in fact, we see everything as value creation. Or in other words, investments, right? So if I were to invest in this, how would it go towards serving end customers, right? Because I used to work for a supermarket chain and also for a mall, and I used to manage the design for that. And basically, the more footfall you have, the more opportunities that you could provide to the customers. And the more returning customers, the happier customers, then basically everybody benefits, right? So we always look for that point. So a lot of times it's all about understanding what different departments need and being able to tap into that. And what Kun Larn was saying before that is very true, is that Thailand has a lot of soft power because it really, the design and everything within the last 20 years has really moved Thailand leaps and bounds, right? I almost take it for granted whenever I go back to Thailand about how much it has changed, how wonderful it is to be there. And basically, it also lends a lot of opportunities too. When you have a party, it doesn't matter if you throw the greatest party if nobody wants to be there. Like, you can't do anything with it. But in this sense, for example, I'll bring a quick example. Thailand has a lot of tourists. That's without saying much. And of course, design, Instagram and everything attracts people there. But at the same time, it opens up another opportunity, which is our medical system. Somebody 20-something years ago had a bright idea. Hey, when you come for vacation, why don't have a complete body checkup? And of course, now there's I think checkup tourism or whatever you call it, and basically you get a checkup, you get a colonoscopy one day, and next thing you be off to the beach, right?
Different kind of happy ending.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, this is veering a little bit in that direction, but yeah, I mean, it in turns the Thai community also gets to benefit from a more accessible and advanced medical system. So a lot of times, Thailand really has a lot of really good things set up for it, including the weather, including the people. We could touch upon sustainability later on about why Thailand is such a ideal place to be a test bed also. So anyways, yeah, it's a long answer to your question. But
no, it's great. It's also setting up another question I have about also the difference between, I guess, innovation in the U.S., where you've also lived and worked, myself included, versus Asia and specifically Thailand. So do you think innovation perhaps is happening faster in Thailand, given the culture, the heritage, a different mindset, perhaps?
I think innovation, okay, I think it's not really whether or not it's happening faster. Okay, since everybody's on the topic of sustainability, I think, Thailand, previously Kun Lorn has mentioned that before we used to be a very industrial heavy country. So imagine a house, right? You're cooking a burger, a really, really greasy burger, and your exhaust system's broken, right? If I'm sitting in the bedroom, I'm not so moved to fix the exhaust system. But if I'm living in a kitchen where the stuff aren't being made, it's even more urgent for me to do something about it. And so that is why I think that, in countries like Thailand and even China, we're really stepping up the measures to go towards that and driving that innovation in the countries that were most affected by it too. And also Thailand is a really good place to be to do experiments in terms of sustainable projects, because Thailand has a very good base. We have, three seasons, which is hot, hotter, and hottest, right? Yeah. And basically, it's a place where the weathers are super extreme, and if there's one more degree increase, you definitely feel it. So I think that just the human conditions really drive that type of innovation.
Yeah, that's a great point to make. In my mind, I think Thailand really leads the way in terms of these sustainable elements for innovation. And I'd like to hear more about some of the projects, actually, that you've come across within your company that really showcase that innovation, whether it's retail, residential. You mentioned your cousin's project as well. Let's hear a little bit about that, actual concrete examples.
Yeah, well, first of all, our company has recently announced that we're going to towards carbon neutrality in 2030, which is 8 years away, and carbon zero in 2050. And given that type of large organization, of course, is very top down, because my uncle Kun Danin actually is, he's what made CPU what it is today. He's very visionary, and he always believed in benefit to the country, benefit to the people, and then after that, serve benefit to the company, right? So in order to drive that change, of course, you have something that comes from the top, and then all people in the middle. You have to get everybody motivated to do that, to rip themselves away from their current KPI and be able to dedicate some time towards that. And what we did, we actually formed a spin-off company, AlterVim, to actually be able to centralize that action. Because it's such a large company, things are happening piecemeal, we have to actually centralize it. And in turn, that company actually used as a standalone company that could serve other people with sustainable solutions. So one example we give is in 2021, AlterVim actually signed with Lotus of Malaysia, which is actually one of our companies too. And we, with Lotus Hypermarket, we have a lot of roofs, so we AlterVim is going to install and manage the solar panels, which yearly it's going to generate 20 million kilowatts of energy. And that clean energy actually could power 3,500 houses for a year, and offset 9,500 tons of carbon dioxide. So that's one of the things that that we're doing, that we're really committed to doing that, right? In terms of Lotus also, I know that from 20 years ago, Tesco Lotus starts setting up these stores that are actually they do try to push for as much green technology as possible. And of course, these are experimental stores, ranging from using various materials, different wind turbines, solar panels, and so forth. But these things would then be able to be extracted, measured, and then be able to rolled out to different stores. So if that answer your question.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is really great for the audience to hear about, is actually how the innovations are being applied, and how perhaps we should visit these actual environments and see them in action. I have a question, I guess, for both of you. Given the innovation that's happening in Thailand, what do you both see as some potential game-changing ideas that are still most needed, perhaps not just within Thailand, but the rest of the world?
Me first? Okay. I think that, like Thailand, for instance, we're full of contrasts. We got 10%, just over 10% of the population in the urban areas. The other 90% are in the rural areas. And when you talk about game changing, then you have to think about the people in the rural areas and how these innovations will impact them. The 10% obviously are the loudest, and you hear about Bangkok and Chiang Mai, but not very much is talked about innovations that actually impact people in the provinces. I think what we believe will happen is that this innovation that we're trying to encourage in terms of bettering the lives of these people is something that's tangible, something that's not 2-3 years away, but something that's actually you can actually apply it. And I think that will be the game changer, if you can actually apply innovations on a tangible level to people that will need it the most in Thailand.
Yeah.
Great. Alex, what about you?
And actually, don't mean to copy, but I completely agree, because there's just a large percent of the population that's still untapped. A lot of what you see in Thailand is mostly, you see it in, the tourist sectors,
exactly.
The most visible things.
Yeah.
But if you could actually then be able to also spread the innovation into the more untapped population, I think that would actually lift the whole entire country's GDP up.
So how can we as visitors to Thailand, potential investors or partners to you, better support that ecosystem? I guess maybe, Lauren, you're better placed to answer that.
Yeah, I think basically it's just exposure. Being there, partnering up with us, we get that exposure, and I think that will be able to accelerate the awareness, accelerate the acceptance of new innovations in Thai society. I think just the exposure that we need.
And we have a little bit of time left. I want to ask a bit of a fun question. So if you're about to go and visit Thailand now, what are the absolute must-sees and must-dos? I just read, actually, that they extended the nightlife hours to 4 a.m.
Yes, they have to 4 a.m., yeah.
But my question is more about, obviously, the topic. So thinking about current projects underway, initiatives, but also future ones. So if we're coming to visit, what should we see? What should we do? How do we support?
Well, if you want to come to Thailand, come now, because it's the winter, and the government's very active now in its soft power policies. We're having a winter festival in Thailand, all across the country, so it'll be very festive. We have a water festival during Songkran in April, and during that time, between that time, we have a lot of activities going on in terms of art and culture. This is something that the government is has given very much importance to, and obviously the tourists, the people that come from overseas, the experience that they get is a positive thing for us. So if you want to come, you come now, or maybe in December, in the new year.
Yeah. I think, I mean, the best way to support is come now. Just come to Thailand and just really see for yourself. For the people who don't come to Thailand, there's there's a lot of really hip places that really surprise you, and just come here and spread the word, post it, whatever, and attract more people to come. As I said, the more people to a party, the better. So,
yeah,
exactly.
I mean, as a real estate person, I would say that in a few years' time, I can't wait to see projects like One Bangkok and Makassar, your company's project. For me, this is going to be really exciting to watch the evolution of these cities in Thailand. So with that, we'll close our session. Thank you both.
Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Lauren and Alex. Thank you for sharing the creative presence of Thai designers. And also thank you to Tiffany for hosting the discussion. So there will be a Meet the Speakers session with our speakers at Room NL upstairs. So please feel free to go there anytime to grab a coffee and engage them with a conversation if you like. And coming up next, in a very short moment, we will feature a DFA special held by Kenya Hara. And also, if you have any feedback to this afternoon's program, please feel free to scan the QR code behind your badge and complete our survey. So see you all in a bit. Thank you.
Every morning is a new dawn in Hong Kong, fueled by fresh ideas and endless energy. Hong Kong is looking ahead, a unique place that not only embraces change but prospers within it. Hong Kong applauds ambition, salutes hard work, and rewards effort. Hong Kong is a place that speaks your language, shares your aspirations, and accepts you for who you are. Hong Kong is a place that welcomes the world and is home to multicultural communities from across the globe, with unrivaled access to mainland China and connected to everywhere. A place that glows with energy and pulsates with power. A place to live, to love, to thrive, and to succeed. A place where the whole world comes to look ahead. So come and say hello, Hong Kong, and let's look ahead together in Asia's World City.
广州设计周是中国第一个设计周，2006年在政府主导下诞生，2011年被评为中国10佳品牌展会，发展至今已成长为亚洲首屈一指的设计产业盛会和资源运营平台。早在2007年，广州设计周便获得了 IFI、ICSID、ICODA 国际3大设计组织联合认证，全球同步推广。10几年来，广州设计周与意大利、英国、以色列、荷兰、丹麦、日本、美国、捷克、墨西哥等多个国家的使领馆和官方组织，已合作举办了众多设计文化交流和营商活动。秉承伙伴天下的运营理念，广州设计周已建立起遍布全球近40个国家和地区200座城市的广州设计周合作伙伴资源网络，发起举办了一系列国内领先、国际知名的设计展会、奖项、论坛和游学活动，是中国乃至全球设计师发现灵感、激发思维、展示成果的重要平台，被誉为设计师的家。自诞生之日起，广州设计周坚定地提出以商业化推广设计的运营法则，并推出设计加品牌、设计推广与品牌营销的 B2B 商务运营模式，首创了365+4全年无休的运营模式，也是首个提出设计驱动产业升级、产业成就美好生活观点，并列为目标使命进行实践的设计产业资源运营平台。这是广州设计周，我们一起的广州设计周。
Welcome back, everyone, and hope you're enjoying our session so far and got inspired in being a game changer. So coming up next, we are delighted to have Kenya Hara, Muji's renowned art director, as he shares his lifetime dedication to Japanese aesthetics, design, and innovation. Kenya Hara's visionary perspective offers invaluable lessons on how design can shape sustainable future for Japan and the world. So please join us in welcoming the keynote, Designing Design, Great Work Hidden in Plain Sight, presented by Ming Foundation. Please welcome Mr. Hara.
Hello, everyone. As you already know, the world is organically shaped. But mankind designed the world square. We enter the square door of the square building of the square city, and typing the square keyboard of square PC in the square room and on the square table. Paper is designed as square, and the view of the window is also cut out into square. Why? I think the reason is from our body. And eyes and ear and the human body is symmetrical. And we are always standing. So this condition, our awareness is direct to vertically. The same situation to the horizontally. How do you think? The same situation is in circle. If we turn the very hard stone on the soft stone, turning and turning and turning, finally, human hand find out the almost perfect circle on the stone without a mathematical way. And the shape of the ball is the same. If the ball is not enough round, we can't play ball game at all. But if the ball is enough round, we can enjoy the ball game easily. And not only play ball game, but also we can find out the essential of physics without through the mathematics. The reason why the ball is round is the same reason the globe is round. It is not designed, it is becoming. Yes, this is the first topics, the architect's macaroni. I was very interested in the shape of macaroni for a long time. And I was asked, the architect society, to create a special design, a special exhibition to show the ability of the architect. So not using the architectural models. So I have commissioned that many talented architects to create a macaroni. As you know, macaroni is made from flour. So any shape is tested to be macaroni. And there are criteria that must be met. So macaroni has no taste, so macaroni should be the container or a vehicle of the sauces. So there must be enough surface to stick the sauces, enough surface. And so if the macaroni shape is boiled, it is difficult to the center core is boiled. So the uniform thickness is necessary to the easy heat transfer. And easy to make as an industrial product. And never too tired to looking at it because it is a daily product. So the talented architects created a very fantastic macaroni like this. And it's very easy to understand their creativity by seeing that. And this exhibition becomes very popular and invited to Milan. And many macaroni producers show that. But none of our macaroni could beat the regular macaroni. The regular macaroni is very strong. I am aware of that. But through this experience, I recognize these are the surviving winners in the macaroni history. Who designed the macaroni? But there is no designer, I think. The shape of macaroni is not designed, I think. That is becoming in our daily life. So second topic is redesign exhibition that I held in 2000, 23 years ago. So I'm focused on the ordinary things like toilet paper, matches, diaper, and cockroach catcher, and coffee dripper, and so on. I asked very talented designer and architect to redesign the ordinary things. For example, I asked Shigeru Ban, the famous architect, who always uses the paper tubes as a material of his architect. Shigeru Ban redesigned the toilet paper like this. She designed the center core of toilet paper square. So the toilet paper is round up squarely. When we put it in the equipment, it sounded like kata kata kata, not so smoothly. It is refused too much consumption, I think. This attitude is very good for the toilet paper shape, I think. And this shape has a good storage function. Oh, fantastic. The square toilet paper is better than the round one, I think. But when we produce this toilet paper, so during the production, the paper is cut by tension. It is very difficult. It is impossible to produce smoothly. So that I wear that again. The round toilet paper is better than square one. So we try a lot, but I think I wear that again. Everything in the world is already designed. In such some circumstances, very powerful design is already there. like the world record of athletes. The powerful design is hidden in our daily life. Please remember, most of those is not designed, it is becoming. So, if we could see the world as if we are seeing it for the first time in our lives, the world would look fresh. I wear that. And I share this concept with a student in Musashino Art University in my seminar. The theme is visualize and awaken. So students sometimes show me the very fantastic viewpoint of design like this. How do you think? If banana could stand on their own, or if banana were flat, or if banana was tied like a strings, oh, so it looks sometimes crazy, I think. But we call it rhetorical figures. By seeing this kind of rhetorical figures, we are aware the reality of banana shape more deeply. How do you think? This student built a fence around the things, like a rubber boot. In doing so, our awareness or recognition of the shape of things deepens or sharpens up, I think. Even the shape of the kettle, the awareness of shaping up. What is this? This is a shuttlecock of badminton. Folding chairs. This student is applying the characteristic of apples to the variety of fruits. This is a banana apple, orange apple, watermelon apple, corn apple, daikon radishes apple, kiwi apple, peach apple, and bean sprouts. How do you think? We can realize the real shape of apple by seeing this kind of the rhetorical figure. And this student is doing research of threshold. This project is to examine the way things are from the end and the other. The suitable thickness of cigarettes, the student researched. We call it threshold. The proper number of holes in the shoes. How do you think? The appropriate length of toothbrush. How do you think? The appropriate hole size for the salt shakers. And length of escalator steps. Number of fork blades. Who decided the number of fork? 4. I don't know. The number of fork is becoming 4. Length of bus body. Okay. This student focused on the yellow line on the military gloves and war gloves. And this kind of war gloves selling in Japan have a yellow line. The ordinary people know well about that. So this student branded with a yellow line and the rough texture of clothes. Turtleneck sweater and knee socks and ballet shoes and bags, baseball uniforms and gloves. How do you think? Even for the baby clothes, they branded by only the yellow line. Okay. make things unknown is our method. People always say, I know, about the carbon footprint, about the climate change. People always, I know. But I don't know why people always saying twice time. But I wonder how much you know about those subjects. If we make people aware how little you know about that, we can push the trigger of these real interests. How do you think? Not make things known, but make things unknown is a very fantastic approach to make the world fresh. Okay. Art direction for Muji. I became the art director in 2002. The first art director, Iko Tanaka, passed the baton of art director to me. The Muji is founded in Japan in 1980, the glorious economical ages of Japan. So as you know, the Muji's article is very simple. But the concept is very easy. Frugal, but not feeling inferior to luxury, but rather feeling proud of frugal. That is a very important point. The only thing that I did in these 20 years is keeping this concept. Muji had started only 40 items, but it becomes now more than 7,500 items. I redesigned the second time this tag and label system. Those tag and label systems focus on the many languages and currency by printing only one colors. And package is like this. Of course, save resources and ecological. This is Muji's message. What happened naturally. We don't design too much. It happened naturally. And in every 3 months, I always create this kind of magazine ad to explain the very simple point of Muji. And package is like this. But the atmosphere of the store is like this. It's very easier to find out. If you make a distance from the 15 meters from the shop, you can find out, oh, that is Muji, very easily. This is the Muji house. Not only gathering the many items, but also we should find out the new lifestyles by gathering Muji, I think. This is a house I make a direction. It's a flat house. And this is the system, we call it the infill. The kitchen is not only cooking place. The sofa, backyard of the sofa is used for some works. So because Muji has a very fantastic modular system, so if we use this kind of modular system, we can clean up the circumstance very clearly. And we opened the Muji Hotel in the 3 cities. The first one in Shenzhen and Beijing, and the third one is in Ginza. And this is Muji Hotel. The reason why we created the Muji Hotel is that we can show the customer the Muji thought in the real living context. putting the Muji's 1,000 item in the real living context is very important. How do you think? It's very narrow, but it's very clean. And this is a recent project, Muji to Go. We improved all the bus as a small mobile store like this. Muji to Go can go everywhere in the local side like this. And this is another recent project, cleaning. It's a kind of the advertisement of Muji. Please see this video. Gathered many scenes of cleaning from all over the world. In Thailand, in Turkey, in Germany, and in Iran, and in Japan. We gathered these movies just before the COVID-19 is spread. Other movies. I like this cleaning car running in the road in the east of East China. I think only mankind that clean our living circumstances. Why mankind cleaning our living circumstances? Muji don't tell the answer, only make a question. Why people make cleaning? It's another one. Cleaning, cleaning, and cleaning. Okay, I gathered many photos from all over the world, and present somehow is a message. Why does it feel good? Is a message from Muji. And this kind of book is born naturally. This is a Muji book. There is no message. Okay, this is another topic. We created that exhibition named Prehistory, 100 verbs, with the Andrea Brandt, the Italian architect. I'm sorry, he passed away in this October. He was a very fantastic architect. And we selected 100 verbs and the tools combining together. Desire The word verb is a kind of the metaphor of human desire. Desire and tool had co-evolved. When a new tool is created, the new desire is occurred. And new desire creates new tool is created. Shoot, boil, cultivate, store, condole. In a huge space, 100 pairs of a tool and a verb had exhibited like this. Inscribe, navigate, orientate, observe, research, fire, cut, move, work, improve, produce, annihilate, slaughter, disappear, despair, fascinate, relax, transmit, expand, trend, consolidate, overindulge, recycle, communicate, shop, imitate, survive, restore, remote operate, rely, visualize, and regenerate. This is the last verb we selected. And the last tool is artificial heart. Regenerate. How do you think? We think we are just standing in the twilight, just before the new civilization is just happened. I don't know what kind of civilization will occur in today's situation. Okay, last topic is just high-resolution tool. So the world becomes more global and global. In this situation, I think the importance and the value of localities become more higher and higher. And I think global and local is not the opposite concept. Combining together global and local, that create a new value, I think. So the high-resolution tour is the name of website I created. Another title is low-altitude flight. If you make a flight in low altitude, we can see the condition of ground more clearly. That's the reason why I put this name to my personal project. This is my personal project. I visited many places in Japan. I was born in Japan, but I aware that I don't know about the Japanese archipelago at all. So in these 4 years, I visited more than 60 places and take a movie by myself and edit it and write an article by myself and make an introduction. This is a video I created. The Gansu is a hotel ship. There are 19 Japanese-style inns, including this ship. I think this is a very great usage for the Japanese inland sea settlage. This sea is very calm and quiet, and this ship is running very quietly by using the electricity. I think this kind of the circumstance of Japan land will be the very important resources for the future condition, I think. The Japanese industry is just changing. We should find out a new phase of industry in this condition, I think, as a designer. This is another video. This is the Kushiro wetland in Hokkaido. I took this movie from the canoe. So in the early morning, I was surrounded in the very deep fogs. Those areas wetland, so that people is very difficult to enter this area. So genuine nature it remained perfectly. I aware that the 67% of Japanese archipelago is covered with forest and mountain. But in these 80 years, just after World War II, Japanese people, the Japanese industry faced to making the produce some things like a factory. But we should change this attitude. We should find out to create a new value by using this kind of the surrounding circumstance and Japanese tradition. More than 1,000 years of the accumulation of culture. So it looks very old, but I think this is a great heritage for us to create a futuristic situation of Japanese industry. We should improve partially the condition of tourism, I think, by the collaboration with many architects and the business people. Yep, this is the website, so the high resolution tour. So you can easily to see those kind of video. So really, there is 3 languages: Japanese, English, and China. And I think this kind of those are very important resources for our future. Water and hot spring and flower arrangement and many circumstances. So, how do you think? Global and locally combining together and create a new value, I think. The most important objects and things are hidden in a daily life, I think, not in unusual context. Please make research design in the usual context. Okay, I'm just conclude my presentation. Thank you for hearing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hara. Thank you. Thank you for sharing so much about your visionary perspective and also the Japanese aesthetic innovations and design. Thank you very much. So our next session will bring you to a thought-provoking discussion about harnessing the potential of design to drive societal change. So please stay tuned. Thank you.
Can design drive societal change? Join industry leaders in a discussion on the power of design and dialogue to empower governments, inspire businesses, and shape transformation. Martin Powell, a psychology graduate with a diverse background in organization, consulting, and innovation. As the CEO of Dutch Design Foundation, he champions the role of design for a sustainable future with a focus on experimentation and supporting emerging talents. The title of for her contributions to Czech design, she is recognized as one of Forbes' 120 most important women in the Czech Republic. RN, General and Artistic Director of wealth of experience from his roles in academia, curatorial work, and creative direction. His impressive career includes lead curator for design and architecture at M+ Hong Kong.
Design as a catalyst for societal transformation will be presented by Eric Chan, General and Artistic Director of Neighbourhoods Institute, Dr. Jana Zelensky, Director of Design Block, Prague International Design Festival, and Martin Paulon, MSc CEO of Dutch Design Foundation. Leading this discussion will be Simon Schultz, Editorial Director of Design Anthology. So please join us in welcoming the panel.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here today. Today, Martijn, Eric, Jana, and I will be delving into the topic of design as a catalyst for transformation in society. As Martijn so eloquently pointed out earlier, everything around us is designed, from the chairs we sit in, to the food we eat, to the cities we live in. And in terms of products, decisions made at the design phase influence what something is made of, how long it lasts, if it can be recycled, what happens at the end of life, and a huge proportion of a product's environmental impact is determined by decisions made at the design phase. Design is also at the heart of systems like business models and distribution networks and even supply chains. And so, it's even much more broad in the systems, global and local, that govern how society functions. Many of the problems we face today are also about systems. And so things like climate change, late capitalism, overconsumption, resource scarcity are all things that can be looked at from a systems point of view. And it's crucial that we look to the discipline of design as a toolbox in which there are tools we can use to affect real change. When it comes to design thinking or research, there's an imperative to move beyond conversation to action. And that involves bringing in stakeholders from various disciplines and industries and institutions into a conversation to ask new questions and come up with new solutions, and then connect them with the resources and spaces necessary to try them out. And so that's the broad framework for today's conversation. And to start us off, I'm going to ask Martijn to talk to us about why he feels that design is a moral action.
Yeah, thank you. Do you want me to stand up or do I present sitting down?
Whichever's more comfortable.
Yeah, I like to move around. I just in the Power Talk talked about design is everywhere, right? With that, it means everywhere. And for me, because it's everywhere, it has transformative power. I really think, I'm not a designer myself, I wanted to be, but due all to circumstances, I did something else and came back with a vengeance, organizing design. But I'm really in love with the power of design. But I'm also thinking that if it has a transformative power, and I really do believe so, there also is a responsibility. And the challenges we face are so severe, are so out there, that we have to really stop beating around the bush. I just said we have to roll up our sleeves and get to action. I really liked your phrase, asking new questions. I really like the phrase, actually, if old answers don't work anymore, we have to start asking new questions. And this is where the power of design starts. And I want to bring it one step further and say design is a moral act. And maybe it's pushing the envelope, but I just want to throw it in the middle. You know, you decide as a designer how things are used, by whom it's used. You have an influence on the whole chain of what materials are taken out of the ground, how it's composed, and how it's shipped, and how it's, you know, discarded as well. Everything is part of your design thinking process. And therefore, I think you have, there's a lot of morals within design. So, for example, you just said a lot of it is designed, and I don't know how extensive it's been researched, but it's been researched over and over again that about 80% of the ecological footprints of our services and our products are determined in the design phase. So that means 80% of this is a design choice. Now, please come back to me and afterwards and say design is not a moral act. I think it is. 80% of this is a design choice. So we really have to start doing things differently. And I know it's difficult. And I know you're probably in a situation where you have commissioners and you have clients and people want things. And I know you're part of a very intricate, difficult global trade system and financial system. I know. But that doesn't give us a free card of not thinking about this and not being a part of it. The fact that you're here and you're part of this event makes probably that you're well aware of what I'm talking about. Actually, I'm staying at the W Hotel, and I'm looking out of a part of the harbor of Hong Kong, and it's where metal scrap is being collected, and I just see the complexity of the system right out of my window, and I'm just looking amazed and thinking, oh, what can we do to influence this? But at least have this discussion with each other. Another one, not talking about waste, but about moral acts. How is it possible that so much of our design is, for example, designed around men? Did you know that when you're a woman in a car, 73% more chance when an accident occurs that you're heavily injured? How is this possible? In this day and age. It's 2023, come on. How is it possible that you're 17% more likely to die? Just because one of the reasons people from the automotive says, yeah, but because that's crash test dummies are all male bodies. Well, come on. Let's do something about this. Design is a moral act. And then the last one, I'm just throwing in a couple of examples, but there's so many more. We're in a phase of AI development, and we all know all the biases that already go in there. And then this system is generative, so it's also going to learn on its own outputs and the outputs of other AI models. So, I mean, the bias that we put in there is going to accelerate. For example, this one was in Miro. You probably know it. It's a collaborative, and it's new, it's beta, it's testing. And I asked, give me 10 presidents. And I think, wow, these are all, and I can say this, white, middle-aged men. This is what I get if I ask, give me 10 presidents. So there's no cultural diversity, there's no gender diversity. This is what the AI says. So the next AI will learn from this AI, and I said, give me 10 airplane pilots, just a random question. And this is what I get. So I'm asking, you know, whether you're in services, whether you're in systems, whether you're in AI, whether you're in buildings, whether you're in products, design is a moral act. And I know it's really tough, and I know you're just one part in a big, you know, engine system, but you're a very powerful part. And I hope we can expand on this and well, actually talk about it, because I don't have the answers, but I do have a lot of questions.
I have some questions too. Oh. Thank you, Martijn.
Cheers.
When you talk about design, you're obviously not talking about tables and chairs and, you know, cars, even though those are all part of it. How are you defining design, and what is this design that's a moral act? What does it look like? What are the processes?
I think design is more a mentality than a discipline. I think it's forging our way forward. I think designers are the game changers. They possibly are. And also you have to be very modest. You know, so it's a mix between, yes, you can have an influence and you're only part of a bigger scheme. But I do think with the power to seduce, with the power to influence people's choices, with the power to influence policymakers, with the power to have an input in this whole make waste system. I think design is a mentality of discovering, experimenting, forging our way forward, and I think that's the main discipline.
It's also clear that you believe designers have a responsibility to be more ecologically conscious or reduce their footprint. Is this something that you think is generally accepted across the discipline among designers? And how do you propose that we kind of advocate or encourage this sense of responsibility?
I think this sense of responsibility is already, it's growing so fast. I mean, if I look at the graduates from all sorts of design schools, you know, I think this whole idea of sustainability, for example, you know, it's ingrained there. People think about what materials do I use, what part of the system do I have. What I really think the next steps are, how can we scale this thinking into a level where we really make an impact? And for that, you also need, you know, policymakers. You also need businesses. You also need market scale. So you need a lot of things. But I do think we have a sort of front runner's role, and we should really act upon that, and don't give up. Yeah.
Thank you, Martijn. This connecting of public-private design is something we'll get into. But before we do, Eric, can you share your presentation with us?
Great, thank you, Simone. I'm a bit lazier than Martin, so I might do this sitting. How are we? Yeah, okay, great. So I'm going to briefly talk about the role that cultural institutions might play in pushing forward the sort of societal transformations that we're talking about here. I'm here because I work for the New Institute, which is the Netherlands National Museum and Institute for Architecture, Design, and Digital Culture. I sort of highlighted the museum and institute part because I think this is something that actually makes us really sort of unique. It's sort of what drew me to Rotterdam. We have a kind of museum function, we do have a collection, we do exhibitions, public programs, but we also have a sort of less visible institute side, which is more research focused and related to different policy-oriented tasks, from talent development to internationalization and so on and so forth. And that allows us, it gives us more leeway to try different things, to make us a different kind of museum plus, perhaps. So for us, you know, in confronting all these big societal and ecological challenges, we ask ourselves, what do cultural institutions do, but more importantly, what else can cultural institutions do? As I said, you know, as cultural institutions, we're very good at putting on exhibitions. You see our current reboot, a reboot show right now, looking at digital culture from the Netherlands. We all know how to do discussions and debates and talks, lots of talks and lectures. There you see an event we co-organized last month with parliamentary candidates running for election in the recent Dutch elections, discussing spatial planning issues. And of course, we do research and speculation. That's our new -1 digital culture lab. But as a sector, as a field, you know, we're very used to doing these kinds of shows and talks that pose questions, that raise awareness, and so on and so forth. But can we be doing more? And for us, the answer is definitely yes. And that relates to the questions, the nature of what we need to do in order to confront the challenges that we're trying to confront. And for us, this means needing to move beyond the kind of thinking of design as a problem-solving exercise to, as Simone said, and Martijn as well, rethinking systems. You know, design can solve problems on a micro level. You know, you can make a chair more ergonomic, you can make a building more accessible, but when you're talking about these bigger questions, it's really not that simple, and you need to start thinking more in terms of rethinking systems. And then as a cultural institution, can we go from doing exhibitions, debates, and research to enacting some of these speculations? So maybe trying things out in ways that maybe the world is not ready for now, but in trying them out with our publics, we can become a testing ground to sort of create this horizon line that we want to aim for and begin to learn by doing to see how we might get there and sharing what we learn. This is based on the notion of cultural institutions as a kind of third space. Everyone's different, but conceptually speaking, we're not government per se. We're not the private sector per se, so we don't have the same constraints, pressures, and agendas that both guide and sometimes hinder government and the private sector in trying new things. We can do things without fear of failure, without worrying about shareholders or voters or whatever. And within what we do, we can then create a testing ground where we use ourselves as guinea pigs with our audiences to create a kind of societal microcosm to do things, to try things out the government and the private sector either can't, won't, or can't fast enough. So I'll give you just two quick examples of that, what we're doing at the Institute. The ZOOP, long story short, this is a model that was developed, led by one of our researchers. It started out as a project, a speculation in an exhibition that the Institute did about 4 years ago. And in a nutshell, it is an organizational model for bringing non-human interests and voices into an organization's decision-making processes in order to further that organization's efforts to becoming more ecologically regenerative. So basically, we spun the ZOOP into a nonprofit independent institute and foundation. They have appointed a speaker for the living to our board of directors, and there's a whole methodology to this, but the idea is to operationally change how we work to increase the life carrying capacity of our site and the sites where we work. It's a way of bureaucratizing the sort of more than human rights of nature discussion that's been going around. This started out as us becoming the world's first ZOOP last year. So instead of just exhibiting the ZOOP concept, we said, let's just do it. And then just last week, 3 more organizations in the Netherlands became ZOOPs officially. So it's growing, and we're all going to be learning from each other and seeing how that goes. And then in October at Dutch Design Week, we did finally launch our new store initiative. This is responding to the growing awareness among designers, or the growing questioning amongst the designers that we've been seeing, who've been asking themselves, do I just want to contribute more stuff to the world? You know, the extractive, exploitative, environmentally degrading things that we keep sort of producing. So they're coming up with new ways of thinking about production and consumption, creating new forms of exchange, and finding new ways of defining value through these sort of speculative proposals. So we decided, let's actually make these proposals instead of, you know, just things that we see in graduation shows or in exhibitions. Let's make it a real store. So these are our actual products engaging with real customers. Dutch Design Week was our first mini launch. We'll be sort of developing this further at Milan Design Week in April of next year, bringing it back to Rotterdam in June. And if you're all able to come, we invite you to come engage with us to create this experiment to see how we can take questions of regenerative design and consumption further. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I'm curious, what is the role of a speaker for the living? What is their role?
So the Speaker for the Living works, so they're appointed by the Zoonomic Foundation that has been set up. And they, well, in our case, the Speaker for the Living is a woman named Maaike van Stiphout, a landscape architect and ecologist. And she has led the creation of an internal working group that identifies our zoonomic goals, identifies issues that we need to work on, and also is developing a kind of monitoring process. And then once a quarter, she participates in our board of directors meetings where we gain her insight and input in decisions that we're making for the organization.
Wow, that's fascinating. I look forward to seeing more about it next year. I'm also interested in the new store and what you said about moving from design thinking to rethinking systems and problematizing design thinking. Can you talk about that and new systems, and perhaps in relation to the new store, how that moves away from design thinking as problem solving?
Yeah, it's funny. You know, there's been a recent spate of articles about how design thinking is dead. You know, and of course, but this has been going on. Design thinking has been declared dead. You know, many times over the past 10 years. But I think the fundamental issue is that it is. it's a system that puts too much faith in the act of design in solving problems as in a sort of autonomous way, right? The idea that you can kind of parachute into a situation, make some observations, come up with a clever idea, and then problem solved has been totally discredited. So. The idea now is to think of design more as a, let's say, co-creative process in which designers, users, different stakeholders, both human and non-human, work in collaboration together and learn from each other. And that's why for us, New Store is really interesting, because it takes these propositions that designers have been coming up with for many, many years. As I said earlier, it takes them out of the graduation shows, out of the biennials and museum exhibitions. It puts them into the real world, engaging with real world scenarios and real people to see how we can take things further. I mean, I actually don't think we need to pose that many more questions. I don't think we need to, focus so much on raising awareness. All that stuff is really important, but we've gotten very good at posing questions and raising awareness and coming up with ideas. The world is not, we're not short on ideas. What we're short on is actually trying these ideas out and seeing what we can learn from them, seeing what works, what doesn't, and taking it from there. And I think this is where cultural institutions can really play a critical role between that proposition stage and that sort of scaling up horizon that Martijn was talking about. You need something in between, like a kind of mechanism.
Absolutely. I think that segues quite well into Jana's presentation as well, where you'll talk about how Design Block kind of connects Czech designers and industry, and that's just one example of a system of connecting. So if you'd like to present.
Hello, I'm not from Holland. And I'm from the Czech Republic, from Prague. I just wonder if anybody of you has ever been to Prague. Okay, it's not so bad. We have established Design Block, Design Festival 26 years ago. And we change the locations every year, but one thing remains the same. The festival is focused on connecting industry and design, because 26 years ago, the Czech industry was in the shape that we were producing, but we were not connecting design and industry. We were the cheap production, which in the economic crisis in 2008 and 2009, it has turned out that it's not possible anymore for the Czech economy to rely on the cheap production, because it wasn't cheap anymore. And we have started several tools to help Czech industrial companies to grow, to have new tools, and as the main tool, we have decided to choose design. And I have to say that when we started Design Block, there were only like 2 or 3 companies in the whole market working with designers. Now we have more than 30 factories, glass productions, porcelain productions, furniture, new technology, 3D printing, which are based on the cooperation with designers. So this is something which made completely the industry different. And this was the biggest task of our festival, to encourage local production, to encourage the development of traditional crafts, and to connect it with designers, not necessarily Czech designers. A lot of the companies work with international designers. In Hong Kong, here are 2 big Czech factories who have their own showroom and have a lot of production here. I hope a lot of you see tonight at the gala dinner at the Regent Hotel. As you can see there, one of the biggest installations in Hong Kong in glass made by the Czech factory Lasvit. And this is as well the company which started in 2009 at Design Block as a very, very small entrepreneur. This is another sample, Moser, some of you may heard about this very traditional Czech glass factory, which is delivering glass to Vatican, to English court, and to many other places. And now we have started a new art directing. We have helped to completely renew the whole factory, to establish a new art director, and to start a new chapter in the history of this very traditional and very old factory. And this makes a Czech Republic different to the surrounding countries, to many countries in Europe. We still have the industry based in the country. So we still produce in our factories. A lot of designers coming to the Czech Republic to produce in the factories. They search for the work in the Czech factories because from the very traditional factories during these 25 past years, it has developed into the modern, high technology factories, but still keeping the traditional craftsmanship, which is very, very important. And it's the part of the Czech know-how. Here are some small samples of installations at Design Block. As you can see, we do not only display like traditional Czech materials like porcelain and furniture, wood and glass, but we focus as well on new technologies and on new ways of design. But we still focus on the beauty and function of design in a very traditional way. We think this is something which is a little bit different, for example, to Dutch design, which is very focused on and grown from the conceptual design, from the strategic design. We focus more about the beauty. And as well, now the factories are really working hard on the sustainable way of the production. And this is the topic which came last 3 years, very, very important. And there are already Czech glass furniture companies who develop their own sustainable glass and sustainable porcelain. And this is something which is really new and which is actually now starting to be very relevant, because as you know, these traditional productions are very expensive because they are all dependent on the gas or on electricity. So this is something which we encourage to make the industry really cutting edge, to take all the benefits from the strategic thinking of the designers, and still to base in the country, to keep the heritage, to keep the know-how. And this is, Design Block is definitely the biggest business opportunity in the Central Europe, because we have a lot of accompanying program, a lot of exhibition programs from the companies from the Central Europe. And we have the stakeholders, especially from Europe and the United States, coming to Design Block to make the contacts, to make the industrial involvement. As you can see, we work a lot as well with foreign brands like Vitra or Morozo and all these companies, connect them with the Czech production and Czech design as well. So now we are very proud that the Czech designers are now, for example, working for Capellini and for many other companies. We are supporting as well young design. This is as well very important, and this is how I will finish. We make a competition of European diploma work. So in Prague, you can see 15 finalists in product design and in fashion design selected from the whole Europe in cooperation with European Union organizations. And we have a very prestigious jury coming to Prague with people like Rossana Orlandi and other stars of European design to judge the work and to support them. We support them as well further with money and with the presentation in their next career. So this is basically it, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Jana. I believe the most recent edition was just last month, the 25th edition.
Yes, exactly.
Congratulations.
We always, thank you, we always match with the Dutch Design Week, so I never go to Dutch Design Week.
This year's edition reflected on the past 25 years and kind of the impact that that Czech design has had on social and environmental issues. But I'd love to know if anything this year really made you stop and think about the potential for design as a transformative force.
Of course, the energetic crisis became a very, very big transformative task because all the big factories are dependent on the gas. And as you know, Czech Republic is very active in the last conflict in Europe. And so we couldn't count suddenly on all the traditional sources of the energies. So really the companies have to start to think what to do, how to solve this problem, how to work on another source of the energy. Unfortunately, for example, I don't know if you have ever been to the glass factory. It is amazing to see, but they cannot go till now for like solar panels or whatever. It needs so much energy that it's basically not possible. They have to go still on the classic electricity or gas. So that's why within the last 2 years we have made as well many exhibitions, many talks, many conferences about if we really want to preserve this heritage of these traditional materials which are so expensive concerning the energy, or if we will replace them with some sort of other materials. But we have made a lot of research. And in the end, for example, using of the porcelain cup turned out to be much more ecological and sustainable than other forms, like, for example, plastic cups and so on, because the porcelain cup has such a longevity, at least 20 years if you don't break it, that actually in the end, this is the sustainable way to keep the products, to make as quality products that you really want to keep them. For example, if you have the furniture from the company Tonet, you probably know, European factory based in the Czech Republic. These chairs are there for 100 years, and you can still use them. There is no change in these chairs. And this is, I think, the Czech sustainable way of the production. The local production, finding the way of lowering the energy and to make as quality design as possible so that it can really prevail over the generations.
Thank you. Eric, speaking of this, I heard you say once that you think that well thought out or well considered thoughtful moderation is perhaps one of the most radical acts, which you did.
Did I say that?
You did. You had said it in conversation, in a passing conversation, in a podcast that I heard. And so I wonder if you can speak about that perhaps in relation to product design or making or choosing perhaps restraint rather than going forward and making more, or can you just speak about that in relation to this topic?
Okay. Well, what I think maybe I meant was I think a lot of the sort of issues and challenges that we are grappling with right now, maybe it can, to put it very simplistically, can be boiled down to this sort of these binary ways of thinking that seem to be wired in our species. It's these binary ways of thinking that have sort of resulted in the sort of ecological crisis that we're in. Man versus nature, or human versus nature. In our societies, left versus right, et cetera, et cetera. I did a whole show about this a few years ago called State of Extremes, and the sort of mechanisms of pushback and backlash and spiraling and so on and so forth that seem to be creating a world of ever greater extremes. And so I guess, the argument that we're trying to make a lot at the Institute, is that, it's not always a question of either or, but and in addressing all of these issues, you kind of need to take multiple strategies. Sometimes they might seem contradictory or in conflict with each other, but you need to sort of negotiate them simultaneously. With the new store, we're looking at multiple types of logics around economic systems and also consumer psychology and so on and so forth. These will often be quite seemingly incompatible, but can we sort of deconstruct these logics to create new logics? And I guess in my mind that applies to everything, including, to go back to your original question, moderation. And maybe to apply that to the broader question of design, I think we can begin to think about design, once again, not as necessarily a problem-solving exercises, but as a problem-solving exercise, but in rethinking systems, a way of negotiation.
Exactly that. I think this, it's about connecting the dots and bridging gaps between, seemingly disparate actors. And this is something that you and Martijn both speak about quite a lot in your work. And so, when facilitation is key, being the mediator, Martijn, maybe you can start to talk about what that bridging actually looks like. How do you go about aligning designers and decision makers, and what challenges do you face when it comes to putting them together?
I'd love to respond to that, and I would also like to respond to your approach about, for example, beauty and craftsmanship. I want to agree on that very much, and I think understanding materials, understanding techniques, even involving technology nowadays, and really making things. I think beauty is a very strong power of design. For example, making people wanting to keep things for the long run. I think that's such an important, and there's so much rubbish and trash being made that I really want to support that remark. I think that the free space and the moderation, I want to give you an example that I'm really proud of. This year happened at Dutch Design Week, and we had 8 furniture companies that normally wouldn't go to Dutch Design Week because we're not so much of a fair trade. We're much more of an experimentation zone. So they would go, for example, to Milan Design Week to find clients and commissions and those sorts of things, which is their business model. So it's more about marketing and sales, and it's a part of the chain. So it's not comparing one to the other, but we're more of an experimentation zone. But what we achieved this year, of which I'm very proud, so they are competitors, but they also face some sort of same challenges, about energy, about materials, about recycling, about labor, about insourcing, outsourcing, all these sorts of challenges. And they did an exhibition together. Actually, it's a process that we moderated and facilitated. And for the first time, they did an exhibition together as competitors, but showing their common challenges and helping each other in bringing these sorts of challenges forward. So, for example, in furniture, how do you deal with the materials, with glue, with what? And I think this was a really powerful exhibition. Also, yes, you are competitors in the marketplace, but you're also, in the same boat that we're all in. And how can we face our future forwards? And one of the final remarks I would like to make is we saw at Dutch Design Week a lot of policymakers and companies coming in saying, okay, we understand that in innovating our way forward, we need this sort of thinking, but how can we work together with designers, of policymakers, saying, look, we don't want to invent our policies within this ivory tower and then hope how can we involve designers in our policy making? And we started what we call embassies, and they are around themes. So, for example, the Embassy of Bio-Based Building, Lucas de Man is going to be talking later in the show. And really, I would go to his talk because he's been heading this embassy for a couple of years now, where we bring in policymakers, companies, and builders, investors, social housing companies, users, farmers, all sorts of actors that we really need if we're going to change our model from steel and concrete to bio-based materials. And this is a systems change, and it's taking a long time. So we're not the designers, but we are the facilitators and the moderators, and using all sorts of designs. And I try to stretch a little bit of what design is. So yes, it's about beauty and seducing and envisioning new ways forward, but it's also about rolling up your sleeves. So what new cooperation models can we design? What new dialogues can we design? What new ways of coming together and inventing, experimenting our way forward we design? And this one, actually, this is starting to get impact and scale, and that's where I'm really proud of scale and impact in a systems change. Yeah.
Absolutely. Eric, do you want to elaborate on that with the new Institute's activities and offering new cultural interpretations to local organizations who are dealing with social and environmental issues of their own? What kind of cultural interpretations do you offer through the new Institute's activities? Can you give us some examples?
Yeah, well, first of all, I totally agree with beauty as well. Going back to what I was saying, it's not either or, right? I mean, beauty is important as much as culture is important to these larger questions. It's funny. I was just speaking with a friend who is involved with sort of organizing the next COP 28 in Dubai in a couple of weeks, and they're trying to get culture recognized as an integral part of the UN's sustainability agenda. But yes, I mean, going back to this sort of problem solving and why it's so problematic, it tends to kind of rely on a sort of techno-utopian sort of approach, right? But these things often don't work, which is why a lot of these approaches have been totally discredited, why design itself has lost a bit of credibility because we sort of overpromised and underdelivered, because it has not accounted for the cultural side of things. So it's about, in order to make the kinds of changes, the radical changes that I think we all agree that we need to make, it requires a shift in mindset, a shift in mentality, a shift in how we relate to each other, how we interact with each other, a shift in worldview, even. And that's where culture comes in. So with the new institute, I mean, it's not just us, of course. There are many people and organizations and researchers and thinkers around the world doing this. But in implementing the ZOAP, for example, that is about trying to make tangible a shift in worldview from a human-centered worldview that places humans at the center and the rest of the world is there for our exploitation. It tries to kind of break that down into a landscape of more than human perspectives, where all forms of life have rights and needs and voices. So that's I think that's maybe the clearest example at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you. Jana, over to you. I would like to know what you think, as the director of Design Block, what you think the role of the design fair is in this conversation, and what its role is becoming. Is it changing? Is it starting to serve a different purpose?
I have connected more roles. One is the Design Block director. The other is we have established in 2006 Czech Grand Design Award, which is broadcasted by Czech television, and it's the national award for design, which is as well very important tool for the marketing of the companies and of the designers. And the third, which I think now became very important, during the COVID, I have established the Association of the Czech Industrial Design. And I have called the owners of the most important Czech industry companies to ask them whether they would join this association to push the state to have the strong tool of these big industrial companies who are privately owned, and to prepare the tools for the Czech state for better export, for the support of these industries. And with the energetic crisis, it has turned out that it was the key step to do. So it's not just the design festival, you have to create more tools connected to this. And I think what was a very good idea was that this association is represented by the owners. because the owners come and they say, look, I have like 1,000 employees here, I produce this amount of the production, this is my export to these 14 countries in the world, and I need the state to give me these tools to improve my business. And so this was very important. We have now 27 members of these owners of the factories, and they really make a great lobbying, a great pressure on the state of the organizations to give them what they need to make their business better. And there are two basic rules who can be accepted into this association. First, their business has to be based on design. So the design has to be the main tool they work with. And the second, more than 70% of the production has to be in the Czech Republic. So if they are producing anywhere else, majority of their production, they cannot become part of this very prestigious organization. And this was like a new chapter of the Czech industrial design, because we have become very, very strong in this field, very visible, for the media, very transparent, like this is the very strong group, and this is what we need, and what we do for the country as well. There is a great employment, there is this whole creative industry business behind. It's not just talking, it's not just discussing. These are the facts, basically. This is the industry, this is what the state is based on. And I think this is very important, that you have very strong arguments for the institutions, for the public, like this is design is not luxury, it's not something which you can or cannot use. This is the basic of the whole industry and of the whole progress which we can make as the state, as the nation.
Thank you, Anna. I think that's a great note to end today's conversation on. Thank you all for your insights. And I look forward to seeing what comes next for each of your organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much once again, our speakers, and also Simon for helping us moderate this session. Thank you so much. And coming up next is our closing dialogue. Speaker will engage in a discussion about the challenges and reward of building sustainable cities. Thank you. And now for our closing dialogue presented by Ming Foundation, we are bringing back a panel of esteemed experts. They are Winnie Mas, founding partner and principal architect of MVRDV. Shohei Shigematsu, partner of OMA. Martin Paulen, MSc CEO of Dutch Design Foundation. Dr. Jana Zelensky, Director of Design Block Prague International Design Festival. And we also have Mr. Darren Chakri, Executive Director of Content Innovation and Tech, to moderate by emphasizing our themes and bring the day one of BODW to a close. So please take it away.
Well, welcome everybody, and it's so excited to be sitting here with all these masters. It's been an incredible day talking about how design is really transforming the industry. How we need to look at design in a different way. As we say, it's not luxury anymore. Design is an idea, it's a concept, a way of transforming the world, way of asking questions differently. And it's exciting. Even if I had a couple questions lined up before, I'm going to throw them all out here because I want to challenge everybody here and really say, what's the first thing of a game changer? We've talked about it today. We've talked about a lot of different things. But to you, what's a game changer from a personal perspective?
Winnie? Oh, this goes okay. No, game changing, for me, what came to my mind is that we need a lot of game changers. The world faces quite some stuff to work on and to direct it, and the fact that we need game changers is because there's also so much fear to not change and protectionism. So, and for me, there's not one; it is a lot.
But does it feel like it's completely out of reach for some? When we say game changers, it's maybe you sitting here on the couches today, but is it a mindset? How do we define it for everybody? How do we bring it to the reality of a personal connection in a game-changing? Martin?
Well, first of all, for me, change is a contact sport. It's hard, it's difficult, it's sweaty, it's bloody, it's messy. It can also be very gracious and beautiful, and it can also be almost like a dance, but it's a contact sport. So it needs to be elegant and ruthless at the same time, I think. But I think, and it's easier said than done, sitting here. So I think it's a process of trying, failing, trying again, don't give up, involving others, asking for help, offering a help. So it's a social contact sport as well. And I think a gathering as today means a lot for bringing about change. I've talked to so many lovely people, and we're already connecting and thinking about working together. And I think that's what game changing is about.
Bringing the connection together. Shohei.
Yeah, but someone also said there are ideas enough. You know, generating ideas, well, we even have AI for that. Ideas are out there, but it's making and forging the change that then it becomes messy and bloody and sweaty and elegant at the same time.
Creativity is a destructive force. It's not easy, right? I mean, I think we got to give it the incredible proudness to the people and saying, you know, you go through so many challenges that you're trying to face, because it really is about solving complex issues. And I think this is the thing that we're looking at. How do we redefine design so it is changing and solving the world's complex issues?
I think, sorry for the last one, I think solving is already, you wanted a discussion, right? Yeah. So I think solving is already a difficult world. I don't think designers can solve things. We as a community, we all together need to forge our way forwards. But the idea of we can solve these issues, I think that's already a difficult one.
But we can help.
Definitely. We can move things. We can get ahead. We can start moving. But yeah.
What is the key first steps that we have to take? And I think it's interesting when you look at all the presentations from Netherlands, other places, is there a big gap? You know, how do we in Asia and other countries that we've seen bring up a different approach to this in a quick manner? Sure.
Well, I don't know about the Asia versus the rest, but the game changing for me is a problem when you consider it as in a short timeline, because I think sometimes the game changing, the word is used in tech industry where, you know, the return of investment is very important. But like in architecture, it happens through the, you know, in a great amount of time. And I think that's also a value. And I think we should look at game changing not in a kind of very short timeline, but in a longer timeline too, because I think that sometimes creates a shortcut that is not maybe good for the society, or also the young designer to think that they are actually charged. I sometimes feel sorry for the young designers nowadays, because they are almost like, as you were saying, already in the kind of school graduation work, you have to save the world, you know? Like 20 years ago, people were still designing sofa legs, you know? So I think we, as an adult or people who are in the profession, should not push them too hard as if they can solve the issue through design. But that's my very cynical point of view.
So what should we be doing?
I think, as I said during the lecture, that I think creating this kind of platform to exchange rather than change, and I think that really creates this kind of dialogue and then push things a little forward and not maybe immediately forward, but I think this is a very meaningful platform. And creating more and more platform, for me, as a designer, is also one of the tasks that can actually generate the change.
But I cannot imagine that you are laid back and that you plead now that we should all lay back and then don't do anything.
No, that's not what I mean. But I think not just focusing on immediate change, but also simultaneously creating a platform to discuss a kind of slower or the long-term goals also, I think, as you were saying in the lecture. So I'm just talking about like game changing just sometimes sounds like a high-pressured word. It's my personal take.
I think the important word is not only change, but as well the game. And maybe we should all think as well about if we play the right game. And if we know the rules of the game, and if this is the game we want to play. And so I think this is a deeper thinking, and I agree that the design itself probably cannot solve the world, but it can influence a lot. And the designers really, as you are right, are now pushed from just designing the objects into problem solving. But I think this is the right approach, because as the designers are pushed, so should be the industry pushed the same way, and all the consumers. We are all responsible, not only designers, to change the game we are playing. So I think this is something very, very important to as well show how important role the consumer plays, not only the designer or the industry.
Do we have to change the word design? Are we calling ourselves designers anymore? Or is design a concept, a methodology that needs to be put across everything we do? Design is everywhere, you said, right? And is this something, you traditionally said, yes, designers, luxury items, products. But, is there a new definition of design or a designer that we have to look at?
No, the word design is fantastic. It means basically that you can do something that you or that group are somehow trying to imagine the next step. You can propose it, you make it, and you do it. And you have to evaluate it. So no, I will not change that word.
Yeah, from a branding point of view, Dutch Design Week would be in trouble. No, but it's it hampers us sometimes.
BOD, business of design, right?
No, I'm making a joke of it, but it hampers us sometimes because within the industries and before in policy makers across, it would still be seen in an old traditional way, but that's been changing really, really fast. So I think we definitely can keep it, but it's for me it's more. I really, also at the week that we do, I think it's, the creative thinking, creative doing, the experimenting, the follow-up that you do, and it's all, I don't really care about the labels. I care about the way forward. I do have to agree, thank you for bringing that up, that we are imposing a lot on our students at the moment, so there's also, can I not just make anything pretty anymore? I just want to make something pretty. But then, like I said before, beauty is also a very powerful and influential force that you can use. So if you learn to make beautiful things, make them into, which will also be a power talk later, products that last. So, yeah.
I think the changing the word is too challenging, but like if you translate in Japanese, designing architecture and designing furniture is two different words, for example. So I think maybe if you think of your own language, maybe design is in English, but maybe there are some hint that, design, the word is quite diversified now, so of course that's a good thing. It could be applied to anything, but at the same time, I think there needs to be some level of distinction between like designing architecture versus designing furniture. Maybe. I'm just trying to
have the role shifted a little bit. Let's take an architect. How the definition of what the role of an architect was 20 years ago, 10 years. Are we not almost back to the Roman times when an architect's role now is fundamentally changed, where you have to touch the culture, the community, you have to understand how all the elements work, how everything's connected. So is it more of a functional shift in time as things are getting more interconnected, technologies under rapid transformation?
There are more architects in the computer science. Their architecture became more dominant than before. That changes our roles also. We have to incredibly connect with that world. So it's a ping pong game that influences our profession enormously. I think the offices that don't do scripting at the moment are stupid. They're already much behind. There's a kind of a zone that are concentrating on craftsmanship, which is fair enough to happen. I love them all. Huh? Don't take me wrong, Martin. But it's like, but on the other hand, that you need it in order to work on complexity, and somehow that you initiate it also. I think that's what I learned, and that's what changed my profession. Yeah.
What did you hear today that stood out to you, or in a discussion you might have had as well?
Well, maybe to respond to also the role of architecture, but I think it's also the role of design, because what I also mean by it being a contact sport means also you need to be in contact. And for one of the things I see that is sometimes lacking, and it's kind of growing, is, for example, involving social sciences. I hear a lot of people talking about human-centered. It's being used by architects, it's being used by designers, it's human-centered. But there's a whole field of science out there that have been studying human behavior, social behavior, and so I think there's a lot of a world to be gained there as well. So, and I'm very much looking in the mirror of what we do. But that was not your question. Actually, for me, what stood out most is here is the serendipity, and I also see it every time. You come from one thing, and then you meet someone coming from a completely different culture, from a different perspective, and then all of a sudden you're into a dialogue that you never anticipated, and that's what I saw here as well. So the serendipity is the nicest part, I think.
Is human-centered not an old-fashioned word?
I think it is. We also talked about ecology-centered. For example, we're only, putting humans on the highest level if we design around humans. So I hear a lot more about ecology-centered as well. But my main point, what I wanted to make, is let's work together across, the systems are complex. So let us not put ourselves, also as designers or architects, in the middle of redesigning that system.
But does sociology then also not evaporate into ecology?
I think they're very intertwined. So understanding ecology will also give you a lot of insights of understanding. You know I'm a psychologist from heart, so I would really like to delve into discussion. But yeah, I think you can learn a lot from that. But it's just if we understand, you know, the big questions today is how are we going to work together? How are we going to deal with this world together? How are we going to save the planet together? I mean, that's what underlies all the discussions that we need to have.
And is technology being used now, especially with AI becoming such an important element as we go forward, and the rapid transformation of technologies towards smart city, although it's mobile cities, the other ones, how is technology affecting all of this? And that's open. Anybody?
Well, I love technology. So I find it fascinating, and the fact that we have to work very closely, that we have to ask questions to the technicians and to the industry. That is what I learned, not only today, but also earlier in Eindhoven, and that I actively at any moment try to do more and more, because then I can find new things, and then also those factories or those technology makers, that they also mitigate to something which is wider than their own products. I every day one new technology invention, and that makes my day.
Yeah. I think technology actually changes the behavior of the people, and then the behavior or the movement or the collective behaviors differently. So I think that pushes the architectural typology forward, because you have to adapt to those, you know, behavioral changes. And I think that the technology actually also allows you to, I don't know, think, of course, much more scientifically. For example, like in the process, it used to be very difficult to simulate the wind or the sun or all these conditions scientifically, but now it's completely built into the process. So it kind of takes away the mythical part of architecture, but you can actually really kind of open and create a kind of very objective design decision platform, although you can, of course, choose not to follow that, but at least it's there. And I think that's, in a way, a game changer, because you demystify, you know, some of the design process.
It was interesting on biodiversity and how important that we flip the equation, bringing nature back in as well. And I think this is this really one of the biggest transformational concepts as well, is how are we bringing nature back in? Even talking about the bees, you know, how can the bees go between different levels was really interesting. So what's your take on, you know, how important it is to reintegrate nature back into the urban development scheme?
I leave it to you, because I talked too long about it.
No, but you were, well, sorry.
You are the one who should.
Well, you were showing the kind of Manhattan covered in green, which I'm, of course, interested in how that
I think that
works.
In biology surpasses the dominance of mankind, and so we already discussed about like this momentum from human-centered to a wider-centered enterprise. We are reaching that point. We are because of lack of resources. We are reaching that point because our climate changes create not so handy circumstances around our deserts and around our snow mountains. So we reach a point also that bioengineering becomes more intriguing after, I think, 20 years now of this kind of, say, researches. We see more potential to work on that. And ultimately, I think the whole world of design will be, is needed to change your clothes, or mine, into something that is more sustainable and that can bring something back to this room or this stuff. I can imagine that also will change a lot. So I didn't almost with my lecture today, I wanted to talk to the designers in a way that I never before. I moved, say, my lecture from say architecture to material, and that's your domain that I face here. So I hoped to to find collaborations today in that in that world. So that's some indications why biology is entering our environment.
Even how do we build things from materials we already have? I think that was an interesting, wonderful showcase that we saw today as well. Going, you know, literally, I've taken everything I've built from materials we've already had. And I think that was a really innovating concept that could transform a lot of people thinking in different ways.
But maybe there's in Czech Republic soon. So because there we do the research, so that will be in the castle. So now, like after your thing, to show basically that calculation on what you just are indicating. Sorry to interfere.
Now, I think also this we need to take a couple of steps further. Yes, you can think about, you know, using materials longer or, you know, without wasting them, but you could also think about design or architecture as a regenerative force. So can we empower nature? Can we make it stronger? For example, if you look at buildings and water, very often water comes really at the end of a commissioning in the Netherlands, you know. Oh, you have to protect from water. It's raining quite a lot. Maybe you use some of it, and how do you dispose of the water? But is it possible? Because water, the same molecules have been on our planet, you know, forever. So we can also see it, you know, we're lending the water from nature, and we have to give it back. And what about we're giving it back in a better state than it's falling on our roofs? So what if we put water first in our commissioning? So what if we really listen to water? What if water would have a voice? And this is an experiment we're doing with municipalities and the regional government and water companies and architects and designers. What if we could build a housing block that is really regenerative, for example, on water, and giving back water in a better state than it fell on the roof? Now that for me is a regenerative design challenge that I think is going to need a lot of, you know, effort to get there. But that's the way forward.
And that's not only in the Netherlands, because
now this is what we do, but
because I think the whole Czech Republic should be dedicated towards water catchment, you know, because it dries out as we speak. Their agriculture is turning it into a desert, and the forestry is so monotonous that you can see how the beetles love this forest to eat it. So there's, I hope that we can do it internationally, and that's what I wanted to say, because the water body, which I love as a project, Martijn. It's very good that we give it we don't recycle it, we even make it better also in the end. So we have to add even more stuff on our roofs and on to make it not only recycle ourselves, but also this is stupid neighbors further away to clean that part also a little bit.
What I wanted to say as well, that we cannot forget about one very important thing, and this is the cooperation with the science. I think this is as well not only technology, not only other aspects, but we have to really, the designers have to connect with the science a lot, because this is something which will be crucial for making the planet a better place. And as you speak about the water, for example, there is this new invention in the Czech science that when you make the surface of the walls from outside, it absorbs the pollution. So it makes the air better, actually, in the end. So now this whole process is being, from this Czech scientist, from the Academy of Science, now it's being put into the production. So I think the designers and the scientists and the technologists, they have to work together. This is the way how to really improve the life and how to improve the planet.
So we talked about speculators. You know, speculation is up in one of the quadrants we talked, right? And then we dropped into, and this is a long-term planning as well. You know, but this seems very far away for a lot of people. You know, what are some key suggestions? The advice that you might give? How do we move people towards this direction in a much faster, more rapid, and beneficial way?
Well, there are more techniques for doing that. One is what I call always the mirroring. If you look back 20 years, what we did in these 20 years, and you mirror it to the coming 20 years, wow, then we have to do a lot the coming 20 years. That has been changed so much. if you could, and let's see the differences both in society, as in technology, as in ecology, to address. So that is one, I would say. The other thing is think about disasters. Is also things can go wrong. I remember one at the moment a discussion in the northern city of Groningen, which is in the Netherlands, cute place, and they was governed by the socialists at that moment, PvdA. And they were okay. They wanted to make a city that is really like friendly food for soft for buses and for that kind of transport. The population was against. So the only thing what happened at that moment with the alderman that we discussed. Okay, then make the chaos bigger, and then the call for a change will come. A bit apocalyptic, I know, but also that is sometimes a tool to address potential changes. And prototypes. Make as much prototypes, like your pavilion is a prototype. Your octopus in Taipei, which I love, because now skateboarding under your theater is possible in that way. So we need these kind of prototypes wherever to address that, to give that, and the culture of prototyping that's what we have to claim and to do. Just ask 6% of the building budgets for doing in that margins that are 35%, to dedicate that to the unknown and to that prototype. Every building needs one. Those are for me the three tools to paint the belief in speculation.
Shohei?
Well, I mean, he's the master of speculation, so I mean, after a bit hard to speak.
What are you saying here?
But I think, as Eric was saying, the institutional role of like creating a systematic design. I think that's like creating almost like a system, or regulations to create again a platform to push those ambitions forward. I think that's the part that me personally, as an architect, should or want to be involved more, because I think just designing is sometimes not so fruitful. So participating on designing the system itself is the key, I think, if you push the speculation forward.
What gets you up, and then what's that key thing that keeps you going every morning? That inspiration that drives you, to be a game changer. That one thing that's driving you each.
Jana, what do you think?
Beauty.
I like that deflection, right? She gets 20 seconds to think about it. I'm going to start over at the end then. Martin.
What gets me up? I am in a lucky position that I am surrounded by people in a field with people who are not naive in the problems that we face, but people who say, I want to do something about it. And no matter how small and sometimes naive the project, or no matter how grand the stories, no matter whether it's in making or it's in visualizing, or people want to make a change, and that's a privilege to be part of that. And one of the things I do think, though, that we need to do, your previous question, to speed things up, is we shouldn't climb on a high horse as if we have, we should be down there. Like I said, it's a contact sport. So if we cannot translate what we do to policymakers, I mean, how long have we been, we shouldn't use plastic bags and these sorts of things, and in Europe it just changed when there came a law not to, so sometimes we need to get off our high horse and be at the same level of the consumers, of the policymakers, and we're part of this whole system, and that gets me up. If I can be a small part of the change, I'm happy.
That's three things. Now they've only got 10 seconds to give their one thing now.
Okay.
Go, one thing.
I guess the cultural, realizing that you are part of the cultural succession or continuity, and I think that makes me very excited.
Jana.
I already said it.
You said it? Oh, I didn't hear the one thing. Well, what was it?
Beauty, she said.
Ah, I missed that. Sorry. She didn't have her microphone. I didn't hear that. Beauty. Beautiful. And finally, to wrap it up.
This incredible variety that is needed to master the complexity. Every day ahead of me that I can see from details to a political discussion that somewhere in between I can interact. That drives my day.
Well, great. Well, thank you all for being here. And it's been an exciting conversation. I look forward to tomorrow. We have some amazing conversations, shaping brands in the business of design. So thank you all.
Thank you so much. What a provoking conversation to conclude our first day of the BODW 2023. And once again, thank you to all our speakers, our moderators, and presenters today. We hope you all found inspiration from today's program, and we encourage you all to tune in to View TV6 at 8 p.m. tonight to revisit the brilliant insights of today's session. And tomorrow, we will be back here at 9:30 a.m. And we will start with a power talk featuring Yao Ying Jai, Vice President of Group Lotus. And for those who are joining the gala dinner come the FA Award presentation ceremony tonight, we have a shuttle prepared for you outside the free space at 6 p.m. Please check with our staff if you have any questions. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all tomorrow.